we're getting there, slowly but surely. Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Let's see who we got out in the chat. Hello, Brenda, O.A. Lamb, Rodman, Genesis. Hello, Judy Bassett, Farmer's Boy. Paul McKay. Repo Sandman, what's going on, man? See who else I see in here. How is everybody on a wonderful Thursday afternoon? Good to see you guys. The Discord's up and running. For anyone that feels like joining, let's see if I can stick a link out there. Here we go. There is a link to the Discord in case you don't have one. Hello, Tusk. What's happening, buddy? Hey, you got 24, 26 people watching already. I'll take it. Maybe we'll steal a few away from Bev or something. Who am I hearing? Let's see. Oh, hey, farmers.
Hello, mate. Couldn't have you sitting in yourself, you know.
Yeah, I'm getting my headphones on. If I don't do that, we're going to get echoes all over the place.
Yeah.
But
I forget. I put my headphones on and forget that I've had me speakers on during the day, and it's like, where's that from? Oh yeah. Yes. Yep, sounds good. Good point. Yeah. That is, yeah, that's George. Yeah, but I bet geographically he's further south than I am.
Yeah, I had the mic shut off for YouTube. I got too many mic buttons here. Too many mic buttons. I was commenting on George's This is George Natchik's pictures you're seeing on the screen. It says earlier today after snow last night. Wow. I don't believe I can live in that part of the country. I don't think so.
I couldn't. No. I can't be doing with snow.
And there's Genesis. Good afternoon, sir. This is Natchik's pictures you see on the screen. It was earlier today. You got to mute your YouTube, Genesis. I don't believe I can live in that part of the country. I don't think so.
No.
Genesis, mute your YouTube screen.
Hi there, Blue and Farmers.
Genesis, you need to mute the YouTube stream.
Okay, I missed that.
Hear it.
So I mute.
Yep. No, that's it. Yeah, you just need to mute the YouTube stream.
I mute. I don't have that much to say, so I mute also.
You don't have to.
Yeah, if you've got your YouTube running, then we're going to hear it 30 seconds. We're going to hear everything we said 30 seconds ago. We got that delay in there. So you can hear us here on Discord. Just mute YouTube. That's all you got to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know that. I have muted my YouTube place.
Yeah, you're good now.
Oh.
Yeah, so
I was also listening to Bev.
Oh, so, were you?
Yeah.
I
love to listen to Bev.
Oh, really?
I don't understand how we can talk for hours and hours about without saying anything.
It is a talent.
Yeah, it is.
No, it's not a talent. It's just a symptom of a sick mind.
Hi, George.
Hello, George.
I was talking about Bev.
Yeah.
George, I really like to talk. I think you're astonishing, and I don't know why are you being Bevs and taking all the hitting there. Just silly.
Say what? What about?
You go in there and you get all this bashing from all these idiotic people.
Well,
they don't understand anything you say.
No, I did months previous. I haven't been Bevs in. I showed up once. About a month ago. It was like the 25th of March or something. I was in about 15 minutes.
Maybe not. Yeah.
But I don't go in there on a regular basis anymore. In fact, I don't even go there anymore. Not even to the YouTube, because he kicked me off his show the last time I was there, and that's enough. I don't go back when someone kicks me off their.
But yesterday he was very low. He said something about no one wants to talk with us, and if they are bullying us, and I think we should stay in our small community and discuss our things, and don't discuss with the other evil people.
Fine, and we should leave them be. I mean, that isn't a group. I mean, we tend to have 10, 15 people in his VCA, and it's guys over and over, and he has no more than about 40, 50 live views on YouTube. I mean, they're just a handful of idiots. I mean, we give these guys way too much time, way too much attention for what they are. I mean, when you look at the population of the Earth that aren't flat earthers, I mean, these guys are in the parts per billion range. I mean, they're idiots. I mean, fine. If you want to be entertained, go on there and, tweak them and troll them and stuff for entertainment. But I mean, don't take them seriously. Jesus. These idiots beyond belief.
But I'm wondering about this guy like Kevin B and SC Montreal and these guys. Are they really believing what Bev is saying?
Yeah, well, leave him. I mean, Montreal's an idiot. I mean, he's a proven idiot. He's been an idiot for 3-4 years. I mean, he says the same damn thing, hump and drop and that. And he's got this fixation with hump and drop. And I mean, the guy's an idiot. Most of these people on Bev's server are not very well educated people. They're lucky if they made it through high school, and even getting through high school, they probably sat and played with themselves under their desk and never paid attention. I mean, they have no skills whatsoever with mathematics and arithmetic, and maybe some basic, the 5 postulates of Euclid. I mean, these guys, their understanding is like skin deep. They have no background in mathematics of any type, geometry, algebra, you name it. And the Bev is latched on to Euclid and the postulates of Euclid, and all he does is he recirculates the 5 postulates over and over. That's a different height, and that's it.
Yeah, maybe muted a good bit for the next hour or so. Lawn care guys out there again. Must be Thursday.
But then we have Rakia. He, at least, is very rich, as it seems.
No, he's not rich.
He gave Bev a lot of money.
Well, just because he gives him a lot of money doesn't mean he's rich.
I think he gave him 2,000 pounds, something.
Yeah, well, he's stupid. I've seen other people do that on Oakley's show, to Oakley, the Quantum Eraser, and Ranty. When Ranty and Brandon were on, there was some guy, what was his name, Heim or something, that was just throwing money left and right at Ranty, $500, maybe 3-4 times during the show.
No,
I mean,
yeah, that's true.
some of these guys just like to show off.
But that was the problem with the all my money should go to this girl.
Oh yeah,
Something.
that was a big
The thing you have to
controversy. Ended up in a
remember
court
is-
case or something.
Yeah.
The thing you need to understand, Genesis, on super chats, they can be pulled back. I mean, if I wanted to appear like a big shot, I could super chat Blue on his YouTube channel, put $5,000 in there, and then a week later pull it back.
Oh, you can pull it back on the soup.
Oh yes.
Well,
I didn't
what
know.
George, what Genesis is talking about though, were not super chats. Bev had a donation fund set up.
Yeah, well, that's fine. I mean, Rakia
Kinda like one of those-
Rakia isn't a very smart dude.
But
Kinda like
I
one of
think
those
it was
GoFundMe
super
things.
chat because
No,
I
it was
think
not.
Ranty
No,
started
it
his
was not.
show.
Listen to me. It
Ranty
was not
started his
that.
show and everything goes to this
Okay,
girl. What's
Ranty-
it
No,
called?
he's talking about.
Randy's
talking-
show. Hey guys,
talking about.
can you hear me?
He's talking about. He's talking
Obviously
about
not.
Ranty and Roxanne. He's not talking about the latest.
Also that should go to Roxanne, and then this guy came in 500 pounds and
Yeah.
said it was not for Roxanne, it was for Ranty
Yeah, that
or
was
something
that
like
Heim.
that.
Yeah, that was Heim that did that.
Yeah. And then the problem started.
Is it my turn yet?
But as far as what happened, it was on April Fools, April 1, with Ranty and
Guess not.
Rakia. But, Rakia likes to play the big shot. If you go to that one show, where he doxed himself for claiming they tried to bait me, and they didn't bait me. It was very obvious that I got Rakia really off about not owning the company. And I warned him that he was going to dox himself, and he went ahead and doxed himself anyway. He said, "I don't care." And he gave his name, his company's name, where he lived, and everything. And then they're claiming I doxed him, and he did it to himself. And that was back on the show. Oh gosh, I have it written down somewhere. Hang on here a sec. I'll tell you exactly. In fact, I'll put it in the live chat queued up, and you can listen to yourself for yourself. See what he did. Here it is. Let's see.
But wasn't
George.
Rakia a flat
Hey.
person before, and he changed now to?
It was Free for All Friday, March 25th. And
Can you guys hear
here it
me?
is. I'll give you the link. Yes, I
Yeah.
hear you.
All right.
We're
I'm
just to you.
you're just talking over the top of me. Got it. Go right ahead.
Right.
Jesus Christ. Yes.
Okay.
Let me have the
you
floor
can
for
have
a
it.
second.
I won't.
Hey.
I won't rumpus you anymore.
Hey, let me have the floor for a
Hey.
second. Damn it, I've got a mute button. Stop it now. Yes,
All right.
what Randy did were super chat. George, I'm going to mute your ass right now. God damn it. That's enough of that shit. Right, when Randy did it, it was super chats. What Bev did was not super chats. That was the point I was trying to make. I didn't want somebody to misinterpret what you guys were saying, okay? That's all. Now, continue.
Well, I agree. I know Rent, or what was it, Rakia gave Bev some money. Fine, you know. He just wants to play the big shot on Bev's show, and Rakia has a problem. He has a self-esteem problem or something, because he's always having to be better than everybody else, and having to have a bigger company, a better life, a big boat, you know, all this stuff. Big gambler, big shot. You know, he has an issue, some personal issue in his life, and I'm not sure exactly what it is. But apparently, there's definitely does seem to be some difficulties in his life. He needs to project and play the big shot.
George, you can snow, but you didn't.
Well, I'm getting a little tired of it. It's the middle of April, and last night we got dumped on with about 5.5 inches, 13, 14 centimeters worth of snow, and it's snowing hard again now. It's going to snow throughout the night. This is really quite ridiculous. But earlier today, Con and I took a walk, and I videoed it, and I'm working on the video right now. I'll upload it later this evening to show you all what we're faced with here.
Yeah. Dogs always love snow.
Oh, Con especially loves snow.
Yeah.
That's his first experience. He was born on December 7th, so his first experience was with snow. And
isn't he a lot of years old?
He's 12 and a half now.
Yeah, he should have been seeing snow for a lot of years.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. No, early this morning, he got so excited when he saw the snow out there. His tail was wagging. He wanted to go outside. He went outside, and while I was working inside the shop, he was just laying there in the snow. He just...
Oh, that's nice. I love dogs. Really, they really know how to enjoy life.
Well, Con has been especially very fine companion.
Yeah,
he still is.
But Khan has a problem with his hips.
Not the hips. It's the back muscles that there's miscommunication going on between his brain and his rear muscles.
Okay.
He doesn't have hip dysplasia. We've had X-rays done, and there isn't any sign of hip dysplasia. It's a neurological condition that's going on. He I
Okay,
hate to
but otherwise it's common to the German shepherds to have a problem with their hips, I think.
hip dysplasia. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a very common malady with German shepherds, but he doesn't have that. It's not a joint issue or a bone issue. This is purely a neurological issue, something with the
Can,
nerves that are going on.
can he get better or?
No, they say it's just it'll progress and get worse.
Okay.
But fortunately, it's been holding steady now pretty much for a year. It was just all of a sudden affected him one day, and we were sitting on the couch, and he tried to get off the couch, fell off the couch, and ended up sprawled out on the floor. And it took a few months before he started working again. And he's a real trooper. He enjoys our walk. We go out walking several times a day, and I think that's helping him.
Okay, nice to hear that it's not getting worse then. Oh,
Yeah, he just doesn't run like he used to. In his prime, he was really quite the runner. He would run about 15 miles a day. I'd either go off my bicycle or he'd run alongside the car. So he's good. He's a very good, strong dog, and I
Yeah.
think because of that, he's gotten life other than that neurological issue. I mean, he's very strong, very healthy.
But I think you should not complain about the snow because I think I'm more north than you are.
Well, you are, but we probably have more snow than you.
No, I have no snow.
Yeah, see?
That's because I'm on the west coast of Sweden and we have the Gulf Stream
Right.
going down. So we have really weather.
Yeah, your temperatures are more moderate than
Yeah.
we're quite a bit inland. We're kind of like right smack in the middle between the two coasts, Atlantic and Pacific Oceans. And
Yeah.
so we're deep land, and so don't get any real benefit of ocean currents. But we do have a large inland lake that moderates the temperatures before freeze up. We'll end up with 2 weeks of the temperature hanging right around freezing until the lake is over and the temperatures start dropping.
And you have a lot of Swedish people there.
Oh yes, yeah. There's a large
And
Swedish.
Minnesota is the biggest Swedish state in the US.
Well, it could be. I mean, I've been told, I haven't been to Sweden, but told a lot of the Swedes come up here to settle here because it was very similar to Sweden, and we had logging and mining, which
Exactly. They felt as home your climate areas. Soon the blue will come in and say, we are talking too much.
we're fine.
We should talk about some interesting points instead
Yeah.
of this
Well,
shit.
Watson's here now. He can bring up something.
Yeah, we might think about a topic of some sort.
How about chainsaws? We'll talk about Swedish chainsaws.
Or the Swedish chainsaws.
Yeah, I use Husqvarnas.
I would like to talk about this unit. I try to explained to you, Jose, earlier on, that you can see if the unit of a constant, you can read out some really interesting thing. Like this small g, the acceleration, the gravitational acceleration, because it's meters per second per second. You can see that meters per second is a speed. So that means that this a change of speed per second. So every second you change that speed. So if you have 10 meters per second, it means that your speed is increased 10 meters per second every second. So if you look at the unit of the constant, you understand what it means. But I think Jose didn't get it at all.
Yeah, well, even a lot of Globers I've noticed make that error. You know, they talk about the rate of acceleration and specify it as a velocity, which is wrong. I mean, when you say rate at which something changes, it implies velocity, not acceleration. Rate usually applies to the rate of change of distance with time is the velocity. You should really talk about the acceleration due to gravity, not the rate of gravitational rate. I'm trying to remember how they specify it, but it ends up misleading people.
But I mean, you can figure out a formula just looking at the units of all the variables.
Yeah.
If you have something, what does this depend on? You can list all the things that this might depend on, and then you take the units to the correct sub units, and you will get their formula. Yeah.
Well, now I remember how people say it is they talk about the rate of fall as being 9.8 meters per second, and that's wrong. Rate of fall implies a velocity, not acceleration. You shouldn't say the rate of fall is 9.8 meters per second squared. That is the acceleration that an object undergoes while it's falling, not the rate of fall. Rate of fall implies a velocity.
Well, acceleration is the rate of change of velocity.
Right.
It is totally correct to say that.
Yes. But just to say the rate of fall is 9.8 meters per second squared is really not correct technically.
Yeah, I agree.
I thought I knew a lot of this physics and all the formulas, but then I listened to George, and then I understood that I don't know that much probably. But George, you really know all this stuff. I'm impressed.
I use it a lot in my engineering field. I mean, I do know a lot of conversions. I know a lot of the constants in that, and these guys that try to come up against me and tell me this or that, they just there's no competition.
But I have a master's degree in theoretical physics, so I should know at least as much as you do, but I don't.
Well, it all depends upon how often you use the things. I mean, obscure constants in that, I generally have to look up, as I can't remember all the constants. I mean, if you want to, but the common stuff, Theodolite, big G, little g, conversion factors, meters to or kilometers to miles, kilometers to miles is 1.6. 09344. kilometers per mile, things like that. I try to remember constant at least to 6, 7 decimal places, and then that way I can always get things to parts per million or parts per billion.
Hey, shout out to John Rapp for $2 Australian. Says rate of exchange and YouTube cut means this is. What does SFA mean? What? I don't know.
Sweet fuck all. Basically.
Teach me to ask that question again.
Yep.
I just mean that George knows what he's talking about, and then he goes into these idiot channels like Bev, Next Level, and discuss with them. And they are totally, they have no idea what he's talking about, but they know he is wrong. That's the only thing they know.
Well, humor on that, which became evident after 4 appearances, months ago, is that Bev has never touched a theodolite or used one. Yet he and Racky will talk like this stuff inside or out. And
but one showed in the
no, he does not have a theodolite. He has an auto level.
Okay. I don't know the difference. So what's the difference with the theodolite and the auto level?
Well, auto soul in life is to establish a horizontal from the optics is the scope doesn't move. Crosshairs when you look through the piece is linked to a pendulum which seeks true vertical, and the crosshairs are set up so that they're at right angles. Swings in the vertical plane, and once you collimate it, you turn it on and collimate it, it will indicate angles relative to the zenith. The zenith is always at 0 degrees on the theodolite, and your horizontal is at 90 degrees, and you can measure within arc seconds angle difference between objects out in the distance. You cannot do that with an auto level. I'll be doing a series of videos. I have another theodolite coming, and as soon as I do a series of videos discussing the difference between auto levels, and the uses of them, and how to interpret the specifications, and then make some measurements with both of them, showing that they both will set up the same horizontal, but with a theodolite, you can actually measure the difference in verticals at different positions on the Earth, and show that they are not parallel.
The flat Earth argument is that you cannot measure an angle to the horizon because that's measuring a straight line to the curve. But can you not measure the angle from the zenith to the star?
Of course.
You can measure angles to anything, angular difference between any 2 points on the Earth in the sky with a theodolite. That's ridiculous.
You're not even.
I mean,
you're not even measuring lines. What you're measuring is the angular separation between 2 observable points. That's what you see. That's what you're measuring. One of those points might be some point on the horizon. The other point might be some celestial object. Or one point might be the base of a building, and the other point might be the top of it. You're measuring the angular separation between two points. That's all.
Yeah.
Yeah, theodolites are for measuring angles, and they're more expensive than an auto level, aren't they? A lot more
Yeah.
A lot more.
Considerably more expensive.
Could you go over just for a second? Explain. Had it explained to me before. I used to operate a theodolite for about a year. It was I believe it was a total station. Can you explain the difference with what a total station theodolite is?
Well, a total station is a theodolite that has measure or distance measuring capability. They call that a total station. Before um, incorporating lasers in with theodolites, they were just called theodolites. All you could do is measure horizontal and vertical angles with them. And then with the advent, Hewlett Packard that I used to work for had a civil engineering division next to the lab I was in, and they developed what was called the Bear, which was one of the first laser ranging units and incorporated in with the theodolite, and that's what they mean total station is basically a theodolite that has also distance measuring capability. You use a laser to do that. You time a laser going out and being reflected back from some sort of a reflector, like a retro reflector, or what they call a corner reflector, and you can get accurate distances that way. You can measure distance crudely with an auto level. That's what the stadium marks are for. They're set up that between the top and the bottom stadium mark, that if you say look at a range pole out in the distance, and between the top and the bottom stadium marks, um, read off the distance on your pole and multiply by 100. That's the distance to the pole. It's stadium marks are set up to 100 to 1. You basically have 10 milliradians angular difference between your top and bottom stadium marks. So if in the distance you're measuring, say you read off 1.5 meters between the top and the bottom stadium marks, then you're 150 meters away from that range pole, and so there becomes a practical limit in which you can use the stadium marks. Is say if you wanted, if you're going to you possibly use it to say measure out a mile with a auto level, because to do a mile, say 5,280 feet, you would have to have the top and the bottom stadium marks measure off 52 feet between the top and the bottom. Who carries around a range pole that's 52 feet long, So to get an estimate on distances using an auto level, it's for pretty much close in work. If say your range pole is 6 feet long, you can measure out to 600 feet with a estimating the distance using an auto level. So it just gives you kind of a crude indication your distances. Whereas with a theodolite, if you have a large target array like I have, I can go out to 15,000 feet, which is about 3 miles, using theodolite and getting accurate distance measurements to within centimeters using a total station. So the difference, total station is just a theodolite with distance measuring capability.
Yeah, that's what I used. It had like a laser on the front. You'd use it sometimes.
Yeah,
Yeah,
all you do, it's very easy. I mean, with the modern theodolite, they have electronics. You just push a button, measure, it goes out, it statistically shoots the laser out several times and does a statistical averaging and gives you the distance.
yeah, they're very
Tallest
accurate.
pole we ever used. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was. For me, it was very accurate. I think the tallest reflector pole we ever needed to use was maybe 20 feet high.
Yeah, I
I've
haven't
got,
tried yet to see how far out I can go with my total station. I built a 19 retroreflector array, so that to use with lasers in the Theodolite, and I haven't tested yet, but given the fact that it's rated, that Theodolite with a 9 reflector array is rated to go out to about 12,000 feet, I would imagine I can probably get a 50% more using a 19 reflector array.
Yeah, that's a whole lot easier than pulling chain back in the old days.
Yeah.
But that's the way surveying was done until modern stuff came along. You had to physically measure those
Yeah, and
distances.
it's even getting better. Yeah, and it's even getting better. I mean, you look at modern total stations now, the amount of functionality that's built into the electronics is just incredible. I mean, you can do all kinds of stuff with it. That's even well beyond what my Topcon 3B does, you know. However, the thing to keep in mind is that these modern day Theodolites aren't any more accurate than the older ones, like from the 80s, like what I have. It just it makes it easier for you.
Yeah, they're just faster. They're easier and faster. They're not any more accurate today than they were 30 years ago, for that matter. Hey. Shout out to Lael for $5. Lael, damn it. Lemon bird, lemon bird, lemon bird. Here we go. I don't know though, Lael. I think we got lemon bird repellent over here. I don't think I've seen lemon try to join this string.
I got a
Never
lemon
know,
bird
though.
swatter.
I'll try it. Lemon bird, lemon bird, lemon bird.
You're not being helpful, Genesis.
Yeah, you got to.
This server has been lemon proofed.
Yeah, you got to click your heels 3 times like Dorothy on the yellow brick road. Yellow, you know. See, I wish Lemon wasn't here. Wish Lemon wasn't.
I noticed our friends over at the juvenile detention server were banging on again this afternoon about Lake Pontchartrain. They really have an issue with that. Really doesn't make
that blew my socks off the first time I saw Sonley's image on that. I'm going, wow, this is great. I mean, something to compare the Earth's curvature to. I mean, it just wow.
It's not called Lake Pontchartrain anymore. It's Rockia's Bridge.
Rockia's Bridge, Jesus.
Rockia's
Sonley
Bridge, my
was
ass.
the first one to come up with that. Sonley was the first one to come up with that photograph.
Well, first one I've ever.
But
The
that
first
must
time I
be
saw
one
it,
of the
it was from him.
longest bridge in the world. Or?
It is the longest
It's very long.
bridge that is over water continuously.
Yeah, the flat earthers are a lot like the Russians and Trump. You know, they claim credit for everything.
Yeah, they have some very long bridge in China, but Lake Pontchartrain must be one of the longest in the world.
They just finished construction of a bridge crossing the Dardanelles, the Strait of Dardanelles from Uranus. I think it's the longest one now.
Yeah, that could be.
They're in Turkey.
There are longer
if
ones, but they had intermediate ground points where it crossed some, some little.
Yeah, I was going to say probably the longest single span because
Right.
it's pretty hard to beat the bridge from series of bridge from Miami to Key West. That's 150 miles. You're hopping from island to island.
Yeah, this one is a single span. I'll find the post. It's if Little Captain were here, he knows. He's gone through that strait before, at least once.
Hi, Alan. I really like you too. Just to shout out.
Hey, feelings mutual.
Thank you.
I just thought I'd a quick hello. I'm going to have to drop soon. Nice to hear you all stuff. This is John, in case you didn't realize.
Hello, John.
Hi, John.
Hey.
He's a Scottish teacher. He teaches you how to become an honorary Scotsman.
Yeah.
You got to learn to drink, swear like John.
Yep. That's it. Yep.
And he's a commercial diver, I hear.
But you know, Scotland and England is nearly Swedish. But all of England in the 800s, I think. But then we was
Yeah.
kicked out.
Yeah, we were overrun with Vikings at one point.
Yeah.
The Danes went, they crossed paths. The Danes went more north and the Swedes more south, right? Okay, I found it here. It's the 1915 Sanaka. Posting it now. There you go.
I mean, the Swedes came to England and went, hang on, it doesn't get 15 feet of snow every winter? And the farther went, the more amazingly mild the winters got. So they just kept going and sort of down towards Devon and Cornwall. And they, holy shit, coal lines. And the farther north they went, the more hills they found. And they were just amazed. They kept going, heading up towards Scotland.
They were amazed to find elevation, change in elevation. Denmark's pretty flat. When I was in Copenhagen, I told them, "Hey, I'm gonna want us to." I went to the tourist office because I said I wanted to go skiing in Austria, and they said, "But we have snow here." I said, "No, downhill, not you need a hill to go down."
My mother went years ago now down to, I can't remember, was it Ely or King's Lynn? I think it was Ely in Cambridgeshire, where Alan Evans is. And she wanted to visit the famous cathedral they've got there. And she asked somebody, which way is the cathedral? And got told, you can't miss it. It's at the top of the hill. Well, she's from Yorkshire. In Yorkshire, a hill is like 400 meters above sea level. In Ely, it's about 4 meters. What? In a hill.
Yeah, the whole area around there, the fens, it's almost flat like crazy. Hence, they've got these drains, which are really useful for doing observations of level and horizontal on. But Cambridge does have a few hills. Ish.
Yeah. Flood.fire set it to 20 meters above sea level and tell me how much of Cambridgeshire is left.
All right.
There's
Yeah.
a nice bridge across. Is it the Humber River?
Yeah, the Humber River. Yeah.
That's a nice bridge. I've been there. That's cool.
Yeah, I think that was. I think when it opened, it was actually the longest suspension bridge in the world. I think 81 or something. I think it was opened.
It goes to Beverly, or Beverly's near there.
I don't know. Not familiar. Oh, got someone with an open microphone.
Think
Yes.
Beverly.
Hi
Just west of
there,
Coventry.
Rumpus. Shout out to Rumpus.
Hey, Genesis, how are you? You've been able to.
Thank you.
you-
I love you, Roppus.
I love you too, Genesis. You're a nice guy. I mean, you are able to actually put up with the Bevites and with good humour. So you are a very strange person.
Yeah, thank you. I'm a,
But charming with it. So you go.
Bevitian.
Yeah,
Really.
you're charming with it, Genesis. So I don't know whether you. I get the suspicion that no one could get you all agitated or something, or you have to have someone give you a really big poke in the eye to get you upset.
Or maybe I'm just that stupid.
Yeah, perhaps that's the answer. Yes, perhaps that's the way you just yeah you. No, I've heard you say some intelligent stuff, Genesis. I think this is all part of your charm offensive. I think with them, no one can take offence to you. Hence, you were able to be longer on the Bevite thing than and you were. I think at one point you were the only globe who wasn't banned from there.
Yeah, I think so. Everyone is banned now, I think.
Yeah, though
Like
they've now split.
and this German guy, what's his called? Hoiritus, no?
I don't
Hoimar.
know. Oh,
Hoimar.
Hoima. Oh, Hoima,
Yeah.
right. Yeah.
And Sam. I think all of them are mute or banned now.
Well, now Bev has changed it now such that you don't need to get authorization from. You can just go in there and click on something, and then you now have access to the VC channel, which didn't has only changed about 2 weeks ago. But they still don't let you broadcast. You can't stream pictures. So I haven't been there for about 3 weeks now. Until they restore my ability to draw things, I'm not going to go there. Not that I was very inclined to go there that often, anyway.
Yeah. But yesterday I heard Bev saying that no one wants to talk with us. And
whatever gave him that idea.
And we should continue to talk in our small family and not talk with these evil globers.
Yeah, I mean, you were the only person they allowed. I mean, you were the only person they didn't repeatedly overtalk. I mean, I must say, I'm a bit more combative than you are, but what was most annoying about them, was the fact that you just couldn't get a sentence out without being overtalked, interrupted, disrupted, because they would threat from anything you said, and so that was what made. That's why people didn't go over there.
I'm too stupid. I'm just stay quiet.
I mean, you, for instance, you made some very important points to them about what constitutes vertical and why something going on a horizontal plane is only horizontal at the point.
I don't think I succeeded. I mean, if you say that all horizontals is
perpendicular to the
perpendicular. Thank you. Perpendicular. It's really that the Earth is flat.
Yeah, the problem with that, the thing is that we naturally talk about horizontal planes and things, but emphasize enough is to say that, well, it's actually only horizontal at a point. Of course, people like Bev and the other globers don't understand the calculus, so they don't know about the gradient. And of course, Bev denies that a curve has a gradient at any point. They just don't. They understand this Euclidean idea of tangents, but they don't understand the idea of a curve having a gradient, an instantaneous gradient. And of course, we tend to just, because people like people on the panel here know a bit about calculus, and know that when we talk about horizontal plane, we all know that it's just horizontal point. But perhaps sometimes when you're attacked, things that you just take as obvious, you don't bother to explain it very well. So when we talk about horizontal plane, we all know that it's only horizontal at the point where it is perpendicular to the vertical, at that point of contact with the vertical radial. Of course, the rest of the plane is just an extension of the gradient at that point, and there's nothing actually horizontal at that. If you were to go on that point, it's not follow the plane, it's no longer horizontal. Immediately it leaves that point on the Earth's surface, and that's something I'm hoping to emphasize when I get around to doing a video on a cross on the Earth. But you made that point excellently well. I mean, it got us about 3 or 4 months ago when I pointed out that if you followed these perpendiculars to this horizontal plane, they might be perpendicular to horizontal plane, but the horizontal plane is not horizontal except at one point. And you made this point very well, because those lines didn't go to the screen
right now. It's the picture I've got up on the screen right now. That's the one that drives them.
I wasn't watching what you're doing there.
Drives them crazy. They don't get it that you can have it's a sphere,
And I
and it can
and
be,
I heard
and you can
them.
have an infinite number of horizontals. It does have an infinite
heard
number of
them
horizontals.
saying that Blue is an idiot because he can have 3 horizontal planes at the same time.
Oh, I can have a lot
Same
more
in
than
the
that.
same place.
Yeah.
That's what they get confused about, because you've got, possibly it confuses them slightly about that diagram. Bloods. There is ways of improving what you're doing there, because you're implying that because you've got the word horizontal plane there, you haven't actually said this is the horizontal plane for point A, this is the horizontal plane for point B,
I'll
and
just
this is the
estimate
horizontal
it.
for point C. You've just called it. Sorry?
I'll just estimate it like that. Yes, but that's
So
that should be implied. If this is the horizontal we're talking about, it's horizontal at this point. If this line
so
is
that,
the
the
line
thing
we're
is,
talking about,
the horizontal plane you've got
it's
there
this
does
one.
go through A and C.
Yeah,
So the thing is, because they're stupid, of course, they don't. You've put the horizontal plane, but you could say that's the horizontal plane for B, and then the other horizontal plane for A, and then the horizontal plane for C, and then it would be easier to understand for them. But obviously, they'd willfully misunderstand it anyway. But that would just make it absolutely crystal clear.
well, if
It might make it crystal clear to some people. It won't ever make it crystal clear to a guy whose income depends on him not understanding it.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously got an incentive not to understand, but sometimes you can make it so brutal that they have to go. You just make them perform more acrobatics, intellectual acrobatics, than they would otherwise do. This diagram gives them an opportunity. Obviously, malicious intent. They can just say, "Well, look, B's got 3 horizontals going through it. How can that be?" And that's the line of argument. Whereas if you say this is with each, for instance, if you gave each line a different color, which is or something else like that, just to distinguish them. So, for instance, you gave A color, and then it's horizontal color, then B another color, and then it's in other words, every horizontal and every point has got an associated color. Then it makes it a little bit clearer. But obviously, if they're intent on and particularly Bev, who's a congenital deceiver, he will obviously misrepresent what you're doing anyway. But you just give them a less chance. Something that the other members of the panel might just potentially pick it up or something.
So
Well,
when you say Genesis,
I was interested
you say
in
Genesis that you. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, if I was interested in improving my artistic abilities, I'm quite sure I could probably do something different. But frankly, Rumpus, if this drawing is not crystal clear as to what we're talking about, then the person that is having a problem with it basically has the IQ of toenail fungus. I don't care to talk to him.
Yeah, well, okay. Well, I probably, this is where I'm possibly a bit more patient than you, and a bit more determined to shove it down into their brain and down through their mouth, these things, so they have more difficulty misunderstanding it.
Right, as long as one person gets it and buys it, but the people in charge have a vested interest in not understanding it. And that's why when you say Genesis, when you say that you failed or you failed it at them, you did fail as long as you represent reality. Maybe at least someone will hear it, and they need to be refuted. And it's hard, and it's impossible to fail. You always win when debating a flat earther, because it's like a country western singer once said, "All you need is 3 chords and the truth."
Well, I'm not sure that's the case, unfortunately. I think you can.
You don't need to, in other words, you don't need to make you do need to know stuff, but if you lie, if you're a liar, your story gets much more complicated when you're trying to deceive.
Well, yeah, but I must admit, I tend to give myself a higher bar, and I like to think that I mean, for instance, like Nathan Oakler, I forced him to change his position on a number of who's banging away. Genesis, you're doing stuff. You're hitting your computer, Genesis.
And I forced Oakley to come on my channel and say that models are pseudoscience.
Right. So I think you can. So I do regard you can do more than just present something that's accurate. I think you can do it in such a way that they have difficulty misunderstanding it. And the Genesis is very gentle in his explanations. And when he made the point that they didn't really pick up that that those lines on a horizontal plane, the perpendicular lines, except for the one that generated the horizontal, does not go through the center of the Earth. And Genesis made this point about 4 or 5 months ago, and the point I've been making, but he said it as well to Bev. And of course, they didn't really pick this up, and Genesis didn't hammer it home because it's not his style to hammer it home, whereas it is my style, obviously, as you know, to hammer things home with a hammer and then hammer it again until the nail's jolly beaten to death. So I think I think there are degrees of winning. I don't think just saying what's correct is necessarily good enough. You have to say it in such a way, and obviously whether I've achieved that, I don't know. You have to do it, I believe anyway. You have to hammer it home and make it absolutely clear, and say it again 3 times to get, because these people don't want to. As you say, they're going to resist, and sometimes you can force them to take some bits on board. Much, of course, if they're muting you or censoring you or preventing you from showing diagrams, it's that much more difficult. But I have had an effect on people like Oakley, where they've had to change their narrative because of the force of argument and the clarity of the argument. But yeah, you can't always succeed. And something like Genesis is a bit more gentle when he's dealing with the Bevites and co. Is obviously he's just, well, I don't think gentle works basically.
But I think around, but your problem is that you start with calling them retards, and then you explain to them.
I've never used that phrase. I've never used that phrase actually. I do, and I don't usually. I sometimes come in with that you're a moron, but usually what I do, I like to, because I know I'm going to get muted or interrupted if I do that. Normally, I mean, I agree, I do that occasionally, but I like to give an explanation. Say you're wrong, and I try and keep it low initially, then give them a quick summary of why they're wrong, and then I call them a moron. So that's the way I try, and my narrative tries to be. But I must admit, sometimes I do leap in there with "you're a moron" and then give the explanation. So I am guilty of what you're saying.
You start by calling them morons.
Not always. Well, my claim is that I only do that, say, a third of the time. Okay, I'll give you a third of the time. I go in there with a poke in the eye, then give the explanation, get over talked, and then fail possibly to deliver it. But the 2/3 of the time, my claim is I call they're wrong, give an explanation, then call them a moron.
But I think you should benefit from being a bit mild in the start and then accelerate it.
Yeah, I must admit, you do get more coverage. I mean, when you go on for longer before you get interrupted, so you might be something.
But I'm not smart as you.
The other phrase that gets brushed off is "you don't know what you're talking about."
Yeah, your style rumpus in the Dark Kingdom would be to make a pit bull put its head down and walk slowly away with its tail between its legs.
Yeah, I think the trouble is I've seen so many times in and just reality programs on TV some years ago, notice that people are a bit dim. Even if you tell them something's correct or something's the way it is, they don't absorb this fact. You have to hit it home. Though this is other contingencies. I think there's a saying that no one has ever learned something from being told they're an idiot in the process of trying to learn it or something.
Right, because they'll say, "Okay, it's subconscious." Say, "Okay, I am an idiot," and they won't subconsciously. They won't want to understand it.
Yes. So I accept that that's a thing that people have never learned. But then I think but then again, there's another audience. So there's the people, and obviously there are others. I suppose the people listening might also take offence to their proponent being called an idiot. But I think you've got to try and make some sort of impact on some. It's different for different people. Like Bev, you've got to hit them hard, hit them firmly. And with other people who are less obnoxious, I'm less obnoxious as well. So I argue, Genesis, I'm more obnoxious to the more obnoxious types, and actually nice to me. I'm actually usually not nasty to you at all. Actually, even if you're very silly in Flat Earther, I'm actually quite gentle and take quite a long time to explain stuff.
Well, what holds for normal people, though, does not apply to the Bev crowd.
Correct.
I mean, they're not normal people.
Yeah, we got
So,
some
for
more
instance,
people
professionally,
out
I'm very gentle and move things along quite slowly, except when I'm agitated. But I'm usually quite diplomatic. In fact, I'm more diplomatic than most, actually. When I'm
Oh,
that zone, then I do accept that I do get in there and start biting quite early.
give me a second.
I
we
really
got-
like Rumpus. I never
Okay,
heard him say
then don't give me a
anything
second.
wrong. It's the same with the watch.
Thank you, Genesis.
I myself is normally always wrong.
No, you're not. Stop doing yourself down. You know that's not
Eh,
true.
Let
It's false
Blue
humility, Genesis. You're being silly now.
Yeah,
Yes.
I'm a bit silly.
I'd like to welcome everybody to the Rumpus and Genesis show here.
Sorry,
do
go
have a-
Blue.
we do have a
Shut up.
couple.
Sorry, Blue.
We do have a couple
I
more.
do
Yeah,
also.
stick your fingers in your ears, Rumpus, because I figure you must breathe through your ears, and that's the only way I can explain it.
Sorry,
we
Blue.
haven't heard anything out of dog. Are you on? Give us a mic check.
I could add that I have never heard Blue say something wrong either. So
And I see No Name
Gushing
in
with
here. Hey,
confidence,
what's going on, No Name? Yeah, he's probably working. He's off
Oh,
mute.
I'm off today, Blue. Thanks for asking.
Yeah,
How you doing?
jump in here if you can find a crack to jump in. And Rob,
Oh, I
Martin-
was just
hey, man.
waiting for a Rumpus to take a breath, and then I realized that was never going to happen, so I went back to cleaning up around the house.
Yeah.
He's a
Maybe we'll
fellow.
go to bed at some point in the next
But
4
Rumpus,
hours.
as a fellow ear breather, I feel your pain.
Oh, thanks, Lou. Why are you changing your name again? This is I can't remember if you're Left Lane or No Name. No Name. No.
No,
That's racist.
no.
Not like sound alike.
Left lane's
Lane's a different guy.
Yeah.
No, sorry. No, it's No Name. Who's the guy? I think you're No Name, and there's another guy. It sounds rather like you. We've had this discussion before.
Well, actually, I think
be
left
left
lane does
lane.
sound. Yeah.
Yeah, it is Left Lane. So yes, that's No Name and Left Lane. Yes, they even got the names are similar as well. God.
I'm sometimes known as lemoniferous ether, if that helps you out any.
Oh my God.
But I heard Rakia told me that Blue was wrong all the time.
That's what he thinks. I know he does.
Well,
But
I
then he
think
thinks
another
other
that's
places are wrong.
important when talking with these guys is a lot of them is their target. Their objective is to trigger you, especially, and they don't. The best ones don't lose their cool. I've lost my cool a couple times. I think the only one I've never seen actually really triggered is John Watson.
What? John?
Yeah,
He goes
Watson.
bonk on a
I've
regular
seen John.
basis.
I've
He'll
seen
say
John
silly
lose it.
things, but I've never heard him like raise his voice in anger or get triggered. He's usually the one doing the triggering.
John I don't know he's a Scotsman. Oh, for goodness sake.
There is that
That's
narrow
not-
range,
that's not-
narrow range of blood alcohol content where John can get triggered.
Really, I haven't heard. I mean, people like Dell is like constantly triggered, but
I do start to get when I don't get the opportunity to speak, and I've tried loads and loads of times. That does start to fuck me up. But yeah, I've got to go to my bed. But all I was going to say was I do agree with Rumpus that there is a way that you could improve your diagram. One is to not make it look like a pair of boobs. That's just, I'm quite childish that way, and that's what it looked like to me. The other, just to completely fuck them up, is to make it 3D and show it from going away from the observer. Can you imagine that? Like there's a
You mean a perspective view from the observer's point of view or something?
yes. That would be a brain meltdown. I think for them altogether.
I know exactly what kind of pain in the ass it is to do that in my version of AutoCAD, which is AutoCAD 2000. Believe it or not, 22-year-old software I'm still running.
But it's been nice to hear you guys talking about all this, and but I've got to go to my bed. I split of
John.
I split a metric ton of wood yesterday, and I'm not feeling very fresh with an axe. But
oh my god, with an
so,
axe!
Split it with an axe, really?
It needs to keep him fit, John.
Well, I'm at home. You know, I'm on my holidays. It's like what they call in the UK a busman's holiday, where you're like doing the job that you usually do at home. But fucking hell, I don't use an axe when I'm at work. So yeah, I'm a bit. Yeah, I need to go to my bed. But anyway, thanks for the entertainment and information, guys, and I'll catch you around soon.
Right, John.
All right.
Lumberjack too.
Obviously a breast man because he sees boobs where everybody else sees butts. I'm just saying that diagram is objectively a butt because it has legs and no nipples. That's how I know.
Yeah,
okay. I ain't showing you. I'm not showing you guys any more drawings. That's it.
Sorry,
sorry,
Blue.
Blue. I've watched enough Lindsay Harris to know what boobs and butts look like. Okay, there's a dramatic difference when you're using them scientifically.
Between us, Blue, you're the one drawing dirty pictures.
Yeah. Get your mind out the gutter, son.
I want to answer something.
Skills, yeah.
To Chris Durham out in the chat, he says if you purchased the software, wouldn't they offer an update? You don't know Autodesk, Chris. No, those bastards will not do that. In fact, I bought a 2010 AutoCAD Lite version, and if you it ran for I don't know 8 years maybe, and then they shut it off. I can't run that software anymore. I paid for it, but when you read the fine print, you're really just leasing a license for a set period of time.
Yeah, that's obscene, isn't it?
The last version of AutoCAD, my AutoCAD 2000i, is one that they can't do anything to. I've still got all the keys and all that stuff, so I can still install it and run it, and they can't stop me. But as of right now, if I want to run a later version of AutoCAD, I'm going to have to go and spend, I don't know, $30 or $40 a month or something like that. And it's not worth it to me. I don't do enough AutoCAD work anymore to justify it. If I was using it all the time, yeah, I would, but I don't.
Well, it's brilliant you were using on Cavendish. I thought that was excellent, your Cavendish stuff with that as well.
Yeah, that's done on the AutoCAD 2000.
Question.
What?
Oh, everyone went silent.
Well, we waited for you, Genesis. You started talking.
You really want to hear what Genesis
We do.
says.
We want to hear what you got to say, Genesis.
I think, I always see the Rampus getting in with his diagram, showing things to the flat earthers, and they don't care about they only want to attack anything they want. They don't care about is there really any idea to
think
show the diagram to them?
I think they do, though, because a diagram is, because they're simpletons, obviously you can't, logic with them requires something in several stages. Anything requires a sequence of steps, whether it's logic or maths or something else, they don't understand. But if you give them a diagram, so for instance, Bev, I'm still not sure about this. Does he understand that on the globe model that down is toward the center of the Earth and the horizontals are tangents and verticals are radials? So I keep on shoving that diagram at him and he keeps on censoring it. And I think he doesn't like it because it exposes him. And then, although he'll go away and draw horizontals on the diagram saying, look, these horizontals can be at 90 degrees to one another. You've got multiple horizontals. But he doesn't like that diagram and he censors it. And I think that's because it does get through to him, whereas a verbal argument or logical argument doesn't. He can't refute something that's so obviously and simple to understand, like a circle with all the horizontals, verticals, and radials on it. And even S.E. Montreal and other people, they do remember it. Because they're human beings, they've lived their life, they can understand, they're used to their visual system working to some degree, and therefore when they got problems about the logical inconsistency of whatever they've got drops and humps and things they produce. When you show them in a diagram, I was going to actually grab How to See Montreal and a couple of other of them onto my channel and go through it with them slowly, because I haven't been able to do that with them on Bev's channel. I think it does make an impact, although they might shut it off and they might not say anything. I know, for instance, about 3 or 4 years ago, there was a woman on the FED channel, and she said that I keep on shoving at. It was something that used to terrify her at night. She used to have bad dreams about it. So I know that a simple diagram is the way to get through to them, even though they might say so. I think it does have an effect. Go ahead.
Yeah, I agree, because especially in the case of Bev and the Bev tar, they want to talk the Earth flat. They want to just explain it away, verbally. It's all if it's kindergarten, we're playing show and they're just telling but not showing. So if you show it, you can't refute what's in front of their eyes. They can
Bev does
mute you, deflect and conflate, but when something visual in front of them, they can't argue with that.
And Bev does use his whiteboard, of course, and every time he draws a supposed section of the globe, he doesn't draw, and he puts 2 water levels on them. He never draws them as radials. He always draws them going up the whiteboard and then saying, how can you have this hump thing or drop? And it's because he hasn't yet absorbed. I haven't yet been able to spend enough time on him. Say, oh look, these radials, they're not parallel, so you can't draw 2 water levels, the pots, going vertically up the whiteboard. They have to go out from the radius, and
you're not going to change it.
To him.
But
Okay, Blue, that's a challenge. Okay, Blue, that's a challenge. I'm going to get through to him. I'm going to get SE Montreal and I think Mobius onto my channel for a chat, and I'm going to go through it really slowly at their radials.
They won't let
bet
you.
I'm going to make progress. No, be on my channel. Be on my channel. So I've invited SE Montreal has agreed to come onto my channel and for me to slowly explain to him why he's silly about this, because he's one of the main advocates, along with Bev and Q, about this abyss that's supposed to be between 2 people on a curved Earth, a global Earth, that there should be a drop and a hump are incompatible with one another. And I'm going to go through it for him really, really slowly, and I believe I'll make some progress.
But the normal response is, here comes Rumpus with his diagrams, let him show them, and we will laugh at him, and then we will boot him.
He's on my channel, Genesis. He's agreed to come onto my channel, and then I can shove this diagram up places where he won't be able to stop them. He won't.
You really overestimate your ability on this. I already had one bet with you, Rumpus, and you've lost it. You want to bet?
And that was
again?
on Jeremy. Yeah, but I never got Jeremy into a corner, George. Yeah. If I could get Jeremy, okay, I'll tell you what, George, with your bet.
I'll give you 45 minutes to, for Bev or SE Montreal to say they got it. How's dinner at a restaurant in London when I get there?
Okay. All right. Let me say hello to PhD Tony.
Hi, hey, Blue. Tony. How are you?
Good. How are you doing, Tony?
Not too bad. Only woke up recently, so still deciding how I feel. If I can.
Tony.
Hi. How are you? I'm not sure that I know.
He's just friendly, Tony. Here, Genesis.
I love aliens. I have relatives in Australia.
Okay. So if I can make a suggestion, for me, teaching a flat earther how to break with flat Earth has to start with understanding gravity, right?
Yeah.
So that's the point where I would begin. And gravity is actually unrelated to the shape of the Earth. So you can start by attacking gravity, because the point to get them to understand this radial thing, the Greeks were able to understand it on a conceptual level just by saying, look, everything falls towards the center. That means the Earth must be round, because that's the only shape you can end up with if everything falls to the center. So I would start with gravity. Just leave the shape of the Earth out of it for a bit. Start with mass attracting mass. Explain it to them so that they can understand it. From there, you can counter a lot of their opposition, like, how do you get water curving? What about this chasm in between? Well, as soon as you explain gravity, down suddenly becomes the direction where you lose gravitational potential energy. So as a person is walking around the surface of a sphere, they're not losing gravitational potential energy. Their gravitational potential energy is staying the same. So there's no downward motion there. There's nothing down about it. It's around, it's towards, but there's no up and down because their gravitational potential energy is staying the same. So all of these, fatuous objections that they've got, the water band, that other stuff it ends in instant contradictions. All this stuff evaporates. You can correctly get them to understand gravity. So I kind of think that gravity is the key point. And it frustrates me that a lot of people are going on about light and refraction and this, that, and the other. And, the point where we need to start this education process is actually getting them to understand how gravity works, how we know that gravity works, and then we can move on to their other objections.
I agree with that, because in fact, actually, the little document I'm doing my rec test, I'm doing a little crash course on the shape of the Earth, and I start off my first or third point is where is down, and that is to the centre of the Earth, and that defines where horizontal, vertical, and up are, and without gravity, none of those things make sense, and of course also determine what an auto level does, and therefore, I was going to avoid things like the equipotentials. Immediately start talking about equipotentials and energy. I think you've introduced a new field. You don't need to go there. I think you just need to define what down is, and then say that's compatible with. And if you have the shape, in other words, if we're proposing a globe model and you say that down is toward the centre of the Earth, you don't need to get involved in some more physics. There's a force towards the centre. If you start talking about equipotentials, I think
I'm
you're going to
be I'm going to be a naysayer here. You guys are on a fool's errand. You'll never get them to understand gravity. They can't conceive how shapes and distribution of mass changes gravitational centers and
but they can understand down is to the centre, though, George. Surely that's something that they can comprehend.
Especially if they're misconstruing it on purpose. If they're saying drop, they're using the word drop. That's invoking down.
Yeah, that's why I hate that term. I really hate the term drop, horizon drop. And I understand why people use it, but I hate that term.
I do too. You should talk about distance from a tangent to the surface of the Earth, not drop. Drop implies falling, and they just don't separate that out.
And I understand that the standard term is drop angle and
dip
that
angle,
sort of thing.
Dip angle. There's no drop angle. It's dip angle.
Yeah. So, but it's just that whenever they hear that word drop, it instills in their minds that you are falling away from, you're falling vertically down, and for that to happen, down must be in the same direction all the way along that tangent. And I really, really think that people should stop indulging them in the use of that term.
The trouble is such I mean, you obviously have to emphasize, of course, someone like Bev understands drop to mean a change in elevation. So you do have to deal with, I must admit, the multitudinal definition of drop. So that's a problem.
It is a problem.
It is a problem. But in my little thing, I may go from the very start. We're going to talk about this thing called drop, which is the difference between the surface of the Earth and the horizontal at a point. So that's how I'm going to define drop. And then make absolutely hammer home, this is not the same as a change in elevation, which is, i.e., a change from the distance from the centre of the Earth. And I've got these diagrams at level. I could bring up a diagram here, but I'll chat if I start doing that, and I'll get told off or something. But so I understand that you've got an issue, but I think if you're really firm about it to begin with, and this is an accepted, then I think you can get away with it. But you have to really define your terms really strongly at the start of the explanation.
Well, stomping your foot and pointing at the ground is one method of doing it, but I agree with Tony. I mean, and I've long agreed with that gravity is the very starting point. Look at how they reacted to Cavendish. Look at how frightened they are of Cavendish, because it shows gravity. It shows what happens. Now you've got a why for pointing down. That's the part you miss if you just start by saying down is toward the center of the earth. Why?
But again, I think that's the fool's errand, because look at how much in quantum eraser has screwed all these people up.
It's like,
yeah.
I think he accepts that things fall downwards, and then the question is, where on the globe, in the globe Earth model, obviously the way I'm presenting this, I'm saying this is a crash course as part of my this rect observation I'm doing. Part of that is I'm doing a video, of course, on the geometry of the Earth, and as part of that, I'm saying that we, in the globe model, down, which people are obviously familiar with that, things are dropping down, that is toward the Earth. And then I say, right, that then defines, that is the definition of horizon. Because people like Bev, I mean, it's weird that he, as someone who supposedly knows something about surveying, then starts talking about the horizon being involved with the definition of horizontal, which is very odd, really.
But you said that Oakley has acknowledged down. I don't think so. Oakley and Riley both say that gas.
I said Bev has.
For example,
No, sorry, I did say that.
direction.
Yeah, Oakley and QE are in there's no such thing as gravity mode. I don't think
down.
I don't think Bev and Montreal and contingent are in the anti-down contingent. I might be wrong. I've never heard Bev deny gravity or deny the direction of down, whereas certainly Oakley and co say there's no phenomenon to observe, which I find really, really odd.
And they also need to explain the vector of down on their non-existent flat model.
Yeah, that's the problem. Down is also straight down on that pizza of theirs, unless you've got gravity. But I have an important public service announcement from John Rapp, another Australian $2. I give permission for Big Blue to talk on his show. Okay, there you have it.
There you go. Well, feel free to dominate the conversation. I just had one point that I wanted to raise, and that is that sort of part of disentangling flirts is to get them, they've got a simple blanket mistrust of the scientific process and scientists. Yeah. And if you can start with gravity, and if you can show them, look, here's something, and you can trust it. In fact, use it all the time. We use it to map the ocean floor. We use it to navigate submarines. We use it to find mineral deposits. We use it to track water resources. It's practically useful. We use this, and this is how we build up our knowledge and understanding of it. If you can do that, then you can start diffusing their instinctive mistrust of science and scientists, right? This is a broad epistemological strategy. We've got to get, we've got to restore some of their faith in science and how science is done. And I think that, going into some depth on gravity and leaving Earth aside for a bit, just saying these are two completely unconnected issues. We start with this one. Might give you some leverage. It's not guaranteed. Rumpus may be right. I don't know. But it seems like a productive strategy to me.
I do it is with a plumb bob. By the way I describe gravity in my little explanatory document stroke videos coming, it's with just using a plumb bob to show that there's a thing down. Because they would claim that, if they think like the Bevites or whatever, the contingent who do accept gravity, the things fall down, they would just claim, as Blue's just saying, that it will fall down to the pizza. So you haven't got anywhere. So, but if I'm saying this is the globe model that I'm proposing is correct, and then it will have these attributes, including the fact that down is towards the centre of the Earth. And of course, we'll deliberately do things like draw a plumb bob going upwards in the page, because people like Bev have described down as basically going up the vertical, going up the monitor. It's amazing how prevalent this is. If it's not going up the page or up the monitor, they don't think that's up. And so when I draw these plumb bobs pointing towards, when I've got this globe diagram and I've got plumb bobs at the bottom falling towards the center, then that really does have an impact on them. And so I think they can have gravity in their heads. Obviously we know that you can't have a flat thing with a gravitational attraction, but that means something else you'll have to explain to them. Whereas if you say this is the globe model, at least make them understand what the globe model is. If you start talking about equipotential stuff and the fact that the gravity equals spherical thing, that's another level of science you're going to have to get them to take on board, because they're just going to say fall down towards their pizza base. So
Rumpus, I'm still going to rain on your parade. You and HD Tony, grossly overestimate your abilities to teach morons who are borderline imbeciles.
Diagrams will get through, George, and you'll be owing me a big meal.
No.
I'm sorry.
Okay. So we have the bet here. 45
Okay, hold on.
minutes.
So if I get FC Montreal on my thing and I get him to accept that there's no contradiction between drop and hump, if I get him to understand that geometry, will that constitute a win for me?
45 minutes. 45 minutes.
All right. I believe I can do that.
Okay.
All right.
Boy, am I going to beat you up hard for a good old meal.
So I was about to end up by saying that having said all that, I now, let's hand back to Blue to say something, and he hasn't managed to squeeze a word in since. So Blue should feel free to offer a comment or two.
Oh, I'm enjoying the exchange going on between you guys, but I don't think it's I don't think it's a matter of them not understanding. I really don't believe that. I think they understand what the globe model is. They understand it just as well as we do. They just choose to deny it. They've got ulterior motives here.
If you'd seen the way they all agreed in shock when they were going through the Slice Barcane last week, or earlier this week.
Yeah, I saw it.
I mean, although I know Bev does acting, but they were all saying, "Oh, look, it's incredible! He's got these radials, these verticals. They're not parallel. Look, they're all sticking to the side. They're not going up the page." I really think they wouldn't be shouting out in quite that genuine manner if they understood that.
They do understand it. I'm telling you. They understand it very well.
I'm telling you.
Bev has had it explained in detail to him so many times that it's not possible that he it's not lack of knowledge about the model that's compelling Bev's incredulity.
Well, put it like this: SC Montreal was expressing amazement, saying a week or so ago, he was saying, "Oh, look, this is the radial line, so vertical that we're seeing again. This is what they started to say." This he was saying, as though they really haven't had it hammered home to them in a confined environment where they can't do anything else but concentrate. Now, this is why I'm going to get SC Montreal, and I'm going to be able to get him in a corner, and I'm going to be able to shove these radials and these verticals at him, and I think he's going to have it difficult to resist.
No, he's not. I know exactly what his answer is going to be because I've done this for him. Very similar. I took the Bob and Alice or whatever.
Oh yeah, that's the one. Yeah, that's the one.
I showed it to him, and they had some diagram where they had the boats coming at a hump at 90 degrees. Just ridiculous. So I changed their boats so that they're on the curve. And what his response is? Oh yeah, if you want to believe that, that's just ridiculous. It was only an argument from incredulity and mockery.
Yeah,
that's all you'll
I'll
get
agree
out of
that'd
him.
be the first response. I'll get that. I'll agree that'd be the first response I get. But I'm going to do something like take it from the point of view. Here's a football, for instance, and then start drawing tangents and then chords through it, and then possibly develop from there in a slow, methodical way. And I know they're going to try and ease it up, but I'm going to leave him with very little choice. I suspect you didn't have the opportunity of getting him in a corner and shoving some diagrams at him and him not being able to escape. Whereas I'm hoping to get him into a corner and leave him fewer options than perhaps he had with you.
No, yeah, you're right. That was on the fly. An ideal situation to see what he does.
Yeah. But I know George is skeptical. But I go ahead.
I believe you can talk to FC Montreal for a month if you want to, and at the end of the month, no matter how well you've explained it for the 1000th time, SC is just going to say that's ridiculous. That will be his comeback. He does it all the time.
Boats. I got a point about those boats. I hear Alan who say he's changed the visual about the boats. Instead of being opposite, you move one to the curve or something like that. You say, aren't the boats always on the curve?
Yeah.
So.
What OLM was saying was that he modified the diagram so that they could better visualize what was going on. understanding of what I'm said. But I might have to go and check up on and sort of get my in order. So I'll be.
Tell the truth, Tony. You're leaving because you heard me.
Well, actually, the truth is that I was going to leave as soon as you joined. But
thank you very much. I know you love me. I love you too, man.
Yep. I hope you guys have a pleasant conversation. Listening from the. Thank you very much.
Hey, thanks for dropping in, Tony. Thanks very much. I appreciate it. Welcome back anytime, buddy.
I ran him away. I'm really ran him away. I know he really disliked me. But I didn't mean to. I didn't mean to pick on anybody. But it is what it is. You know, people just don't like each other. Don't like being with others specific room.
Anyway, we'll see what happens. I'll see if I can get SE Montreal, get a really strong diagram that he can't escape from. And I think hopefully the confining environment that I'll be in will be somewhat more oppressive to him than the OLM environment he had. And that's what I predict. And if he's prepared to be there, he said he'll be in this hangout. So if he's prepared to hang around for some time, and he's only got me to talk to, I did ask him if he'd bring Mobius or something along. I don't really think I want to deal with Bev really. Well,
Mobius is a bigger idiot than SE is.
Yes, I think you're probably right there. But at least he can talk to the. I mean,
Whoops. I may be having a little Discord problem. Try again, Rumpus.
The Wi-Fi gods have heard me. The Wi-Fi gods have heard me.
Yeah, my internet connections has been flaky. We'll see.
What have you done, Oalim? Did you sabotage the rumpus?
I said Jose 3 times. I manifested you. Sorry, I manifested Jose. Sorry.
It's Lemon Bird sent me over here. When somebody gets summoned, he just called me. I got Lemon on speed dial and he called me.
I used to like you, Jose. Damn. Uh-oh, where'd Rumpus go?
So to answer your question, yeah, I fixed a boat thing where it had at the wrong angles, and it was a straw man. So I steel manned the straw man.
Ah, okay.
Well, I was the one that kind of came. I mean, it's not. I'm not gonna take all the credit, but I remember me being the one that brought this example as if there's 2 boats. Let's give 10 miles away. 10 miles away of a gap. I did the example kind of very very rough around the edges, and Esimon example. He's all like, "Oh man, that's genius. That's great. All right, let's talk about this." And a few weeks after, you see him with the boat paradox, and he just kept on with it. I kind of I gave him that one for free.
Didn't SE used to be a geocentrist? Seems like he's flipped a lot.
He insists he's still a geocentrist. He denies that he's not a flat earther, but he is a flat earther. He doesn't believe that he doesn't believe the earthosphere. He say the sphere Earth makes no sense. It doesn't exist. We live in the water doesn't bend, doesn't curve. The things that they say about these guys that they are flat earthers. He uses all these keywords and random buzz things. So he said, "I'm not a flat earther, but the Earth is not a globe, and I'm just a geocentrics."
Dog whistles, that's what we call
them. And
that's the crazy thing about these guys. They'll claim, "Oh, we're not flat earthers." Really? What do you think? You think the water's curved? Oh, no. The water's horizontal. Now, wait a minute. If the water's horizontal and flat, you are a flat earther by definition.
And don't
I
forget,
love it.
space
Yeah,
is fake.
when you take it to the logical conclusion, you say, "Well, doesn't that mean that the Earth is flat?" And they say, "Welcome to flat Earth."
Yeah.
Like, okay, that doesn't make any sense. You're not a flat earther.
Also, space is fake. Nothing. You don't know anything about just a few thousand feet up until a plane can take as far as you go.
Oh, watch out. Hads is in the chat out there making Jose and Jose B jokes.
Whee! I'll take that.
So, he still can't. He hasn't come to grips with his flatness. He's denying his own flatness. That's like a severe identity crisis. Is it not?
Yeah. It's incredible to me. It's incredible to me. They're in fact flat earthers and afraid to even say that that's what they are. Why is that?
I think it's just to further obfuscate, right? Just the wordplay to just get you further and further off track.
You got a naked Australian woman running around out in your chat named Andrea Huddle.
Uh-oh, where's Andrea? Damn it, Andrea, put your clothes on. Hang on. Okay.
That woman a spanner stat.
Got it.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't Essie Montreal black? Like, is he a guy? Like, dark-skinned guy? I don't know.
I don't know.
I always can picture him as just a black guy. I don't know, for some reason. He's probably the whitest dude.
Probably. No, I thought he was like Greek descent or something like that.
Yeah, I just seen a clip of his channel. For some reason, I found one of the short videos, and he's talking about some flowers, the dragon flower, and he said like, let me show you why this flower is called this way. And then you see two hands, you see a hand, and he's got a white hand with red nail polish, and he's talking as describing what you see, but it's like his hands, and you hear the cars passing by the background. I don't know. I mean, I'm not blaming him for if that's his hand with nail polish, but it was just strange. I just could picture him as a black guy with no nail polish. And when he talks now, all I can see is just a white hand with red nail polish.
I got to look for that.
Yeah, I'll throw a link. I just put a link. I just, let me see this. Yeah, there you go, in the live chat. I just put a link on my chat. I said like, can somebody else tell me what's going on in here? There's an Easter egg, and I give you a hint. It's the nails. That's the hint. But I already told you what it was, but still, I don't know.
Yeah. Rumpus said Discord crashed and won't restart for him.
There's no clicking noise in here. Yes, there's background noise as I speak, but there's no specific clicking. Maybe
no, I don't.
Maybe the way I
click.
speak, I click.
No,
yeah.
no clicking.
Maybe when
noise.
I speak, I click.
I hear a little bit of a click, yeah. But you said nail polish? I don't understand.
But like
yeah, that can't be his hands. How can you can't maintain nail polish and work truck? That's not compatible.
No, I don't know what he does. I've never heard him say what he does. I've heard other people say things, but I don't know. I mean, SE seems to avoid that.
No, he's times mentioned he's in trash removal in Montreal.
Yeah.
Yes, I am aware of the wind noise that I have. That's why I try to just keep myself on mute.
The street name there, Blue, is Garbage Man.
Yeah, I know.
But I imagine he's Quebecois, so you got to Frenchify a little, you know, a refuse engineer, refuse extractor.
Well, I don't make light of anybody's profession, whatever it may be. You know.
No, I was just making fun of French.
Yeah, I know.
That's more fun.
Yeah, I understand. No, I'm just making it clear from my side that any sort of job short of selling drugs or something like that is a perfectly fine job to have. However you go about earning your living, as long as you're doing it legally.
Oh, I didn't mean anything derogatory.
I agree too. It's an admirable. It's an admirable profession.
Hey,
right.
I was in here before you. I wasn't deriding it or trying to diminish his occupation. I just mentioning what he said it is. I mean, the fact
to end the stream manually on YouTube, the red square.
Yeah.
Well, I used to stop him on OBS and started. So don't press end stream on YouTube page. Stream on OBS and start it again right there.
Stop.
90% of the time it caught back up, you know.
So you're saying stop streaming on OBS and restart that?
And start streaming. And start streaming again. Yeah. Yeah. Stop streaming. And then when it stopped, hit the right there on YouTube, on the internet.
If you stop streaming, you've got 5 minutes before it'll actually automatically stop it. He's obviously trying his luck again.
What do you mean protocol?
He has the disease. He just can't shake Bev.
Well, I'm complimenting him on his technique for remaining down there without being overtalked. That's because he's just so nice. He's charming, so he gets through.
I think the stream's up.
Yeah, I got it back now. Yeah, that worked, Jose.
Very cool, very cool. Happy. Hopefully we you get us back. Yeah.
Yeah. Of course, just about everybody left.
Now, Blue, what you can do is right now go on your watch, click share, and you can create a post on your actual page. Say, hey, we are back, same stream. So if you click share, you're gonna have in the blog create a post, and that will give a new notification to the people. And create a post that will just post the link to this stream. People click it and come back. If you want to try that, you can delete it later after it's done, maybe.
Surely the stream's the same. The stream hasn't changed, has it? Why?
Yeah,
no, they're coming.
But people will need a new notification, you know.
Yeah, they must be getting it because we're back to 39 now.
Very cool. Yeah. Just refresh. Yeah.
I think it's okay for the time being. Damn internet.
Yeah. Right. So I had a problem with Discord. Then you had a problem with YouTube or OBS.
Yeah. My OBS was always fine. It was the YouTube stream that went berserk. Yeah. The YouTube chat stayed up. It never dropped, but
it's not that I had the problem with connecting to Discord at the same time. I'm suspicious they were linked in some way, some sort of internet wave or something.
You know what I just did? I just clicked that the thumbs up on the stream. Look, everybody should also do that.
Thank you. Yeah, give me some likes, guys.
Yeah, maybe if there's a gap in one of the two's service, it takes a second. It takes a second. It resets the connection between the OBS and the stream. But good fix, Jose. You saved it.
No, that's it's good. I had to. I mean, I figured it out as I did many streams with bad internet, so it's good.
So yeah,
I'm not
shout out
saying
to the flip flop.
I'm not saying that you have bad internet, Blue. I kind of say that right in the download. Shame on me. Yeah, I've been working good, man, since I got the wired for a few months, decent. Rumpus, are you on Wi-Fi over there? Where you at?
I'm using a desktop computer, and I have a wired connection. Well, actually, this computer I'm using here, I've got two computers, one of which is wired, one of which is Wi-Fi. This one is actually Wi-Fi. But I don't think that was the cause of my internet connection was fine. It was just Discord. So I'm suspicious that it was something to do with Discord in the US or something, or coming over to here, and then something that was related to something that happened to YouTube. I suspect it was too much of a coincidence. It happened within 2 minutes of one another.
I think it's because people in the Western world have priority over servers like Discord.
Anyway, so seems to it was definitely a connection problem. I just couldn't get Discord. Just wouldn't. Every part of it wasn't working. Couldn't start it up. Nothing. So anyway.
So, all right, this boat paradox, right? Let's say I am here, an observer, and I see a big span of open sea, and I got two big container ship boats or whatever you want to call it, and I can see a span of 10 miles left to right in the front of me. This is a thought experiment. Try to please hang on with me so you can picture it. Maybe you can draw it, Rumpus. In the left-hand side, I got a boat over there, and then 10 miles away from that to the right, I got another boat. So I my peripheral vision, one boat to the left, one boat to the right. Far away from, I'm high up, so I can see the whole thing. I am in a higher observation. Is nothing to do with the curvature from me. Now, person in the boat in the left. Now we're gonna change to the person in that boat, and he's looking. He might be seeing that boat, but he gonna see just a little bit of the top of the boat, maybe the mast or something, if it's really high. And then we'll change from the person boat in the right. That one is looking out to the boat in front of him. He's gonna see the top of the boat. So I see the whole two boats, the whole thing. The looking forward is gonna see a little bit on the boat, and the person in the boat in the right is gonna see a little bit in the boat in the left. That's a fact, right? There's nothing with that. That's it.
Right, so you've got someone that's on a cliff or is really high and is looking at two boats who are obviously lower, and then you've got an observer in each boat, and they're lower than the person on the cliff. So they're seeing the boat obscured, say halfway up, and the guy who's on this cliff looking at the two boats, who's higher up, he can see all of the boats. Scenario?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, that's
Okay.
it. And then I think Flutter is gonna twist that anywhere they want. They say like, no, but if you got this person in boat in the front and you got two boats side by side, they say, all right, I'm gonna just go start cruising away from you 10 miles away. Then they'll say, when will the boat start disappearing? So you gotta consider the height of the boat, refraction. Let's say there's no refraction. I mean, this no distortion or mirages and shit. So you say like, all right, when the boat starts, and then they say, so the person who is outside looking at the two boats, one in the left, one in the right, they say the observer should see a hump in between the boats. They say the boat in the left and the boat in the right are the same height, but then the water in the middle is higher up, and they say I should be able to see that bulge. I think that's their issue there.
Should be able to see the. What do you mean by seeing the bulge?
They say I should be able to see the water higher than the boat, because if one person is looking ahead to the boat is the bottom half is behind the horizon, right? In both sides. So they say where the third person, me looking at the boat in the left, the boat in the right, me seeing the whole panorama, I see a horizon line with a boat in the left, a boat in the right. They say I should see the water in the middle, in between these two boats, the 5 mile mark. It should be higher than the boats.
That's what they claim, is what you're saying.
Yeah, that's what they. I mean, yeah, they think they should be able to see that with their naked eye. See a huge, big ass bulge.
What you seem to be sort of touching on is the principle of why do you not see curved left to right, and you can see along your line of sight.
Yep, pretty much.
Is what you're saying. Well, the answer to that is, of course, is that if you can see something like, say, you can see 10 miles left to right across your field of view, what would you expect the drop to be? Well, over 10 miles, it's about, well, let's say it's 6 miles, because I happen to know it. That's about 17 feet. So that means that across a distance of 6 miles left to right across your field of view, you're trying to determine a 6-foot drop, and clearly your human eye is not going to be able to see a 6-foot drop in comparison to 6 miles. The difference is tiny. The proportion of 6 miles relative to 16 feet against 6 miles is insignificant. You're not going to be able to see that as not being a straight line. If you're going to do it, you can do it if you have a good camera and you start having high resolution camera, and you can, as this person on Mick West's site did from a Yorker from a height of 700 feet, you can actually just see there's a slight pixel curve. The reason you can see the drop going along the line of sight is because you can zoom in. You see, if you zoomed in to that, if you can see 10 miles left or 6 miles left to right, that means you're not zooming in. Whereas when you're looking along the line of sight and you zoom in to a ship in the distance, you can carry on zooming in along the line of sight until eventually 6 feet becomes significant. You can't zoom in to something that's left to right, because immediately you zoom into that, you will then lose the things that are 6 miles apart. So that's why you can see a drop along the line of sight and not left to right. If you're using a camera, of course. So if you even with the camera, you can't really see it left to right because you can't zoom in. You can zoom in along the line of sight. So that's the reason.
You know what? I could tell. Just my mind tells me that I take a really high quality picture with a very fancy camera that had 4K camera, right? That I take a picture that the picture can capture actually the two boats left and the right. So I got a 10 mile span of water. I could barely see it with my own eyes, but if I then pinch and zoom the image, the raw image, if I pinch and zoom the boat in the right, if I throw a very, very fine line measuring by pixels in the bottom of each boat, throw a straight line, I think I should kind of higher the water in between those two boats. You think so?
So I'm just someone saying there's that word. I'm not sure which word is the drop. Is he talking about drop or something? And then Thurston says the 17 gap from tangent is the same in every direction. Is the same as the middle and the right. Well, I'm not quite sure you understand what I'm saying. The point is, across your line of sight, if you want to keep something, say 6 miles across your line of sight, you can't zoom in. Whereas you can zoom in if something's 6 miles away from you along your line of sight. You can zoom in as much as your camera can zoom in. So you can use a P1000 to in that something at 6 miles away, and you can therefore zoom into that 6-foot drop or 16 feet of drop for 6 miles away, so you can then see it, but you can't zoom in to something that's across your field of view.
But I don't have to zoom in. Let's say I take a picture, not zoomed in picture. I take a picture that I can capture the two boats in the left and in the right. It's not going to be big enough, but then I can maximize it. Upload the image, maximize it with the computer, and throw a horizontal line from left to right in the bottom of the two boats. I should be able to measure that, right?
Well, I did explain that earlier in my description, which is that you're trying to find 16 feet of drop. If it's say it's 6 miles, I just have to remember that's my I have to remember 16 feet of drop. If you've got a 6 mile left to right, but if you've got a picture with the two boats there, and you're trying to see a 16 feet drop in comparison to your screen left to right is 6 miles, you're going
30,000
to really
feet.
struggle to see any drop whatsoever, any change in the in any curvature at all.
I understand
because,
that, yeah.
oh,
But
so,
for a 4K camera with a raw picture that it has millions of pixels, you should be able to
it's
account for
really, really
pixel
tiny
count.
though. I mean, 6 miles, the ratio, let's just see what the ratio of 6 miles, 16 feet against 6 miles is. So that would be the number of pixels you would expect to drop for the length. So if you've
Yeah,
got,
yeah. There are millions
so
of pixels in 4K images. Millions of
well,
pixels.
no, across nose there is 4,000 across. So let's see. So given that the 4,000 across, let's see how many pixels we would expect to see if that occupied your
With
vision.
what type of image? A 4K image?
So let's suppose we've got 6 miles occupying our 4K. So let's just see what the of that of God, 16 feet. I'll call it 4 meters.
5
Oh,
meters.
Jesus. I'll call it 8 kilometers versus Jesus Christ. Call that 5 meters over 8,000. So it's going to be 1/1600 or
2 pixels.
So it's 0.062. So if we multiply that by 4,000, let's see what that is.
Peter G say 2 pixels.
Okay, let's
maybe
look.
somewhere around there.
Yeah, 2 pixels. Well done, whoever that was. He said 2 pixels. Correct.
Peter G. Yeah.
So yeah, so you would only see 2 pixels across that entire 6 mile span that you've been looking at on your 4K image. You only have.
Yeah. That's
Right.
good.
Well,
There's a difference in pixels. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, we know, but it's very, very tiny.
No,
If you're looking
exactly.
at
I wouldn't be able to see it with my own eyes. Definitely. I mean, 100% no. But I'm saying, if measured correctly, if done in this technique, it can be measured. That's what I'm not agreeing with flat Earth or nothing like that. I'm just saying that it can be measured, but you cannot use your eyes. How are you going to be able to measure the insignificant amount of, like
well, I
that?
did say also about 5 minutes ago that the guy on the Mick Westing who took a picture of an orca in the Mediterranean through from 700 feet up, he shows you the curve and he puts these horizontal bars on screen, the horizon curved, and he crushes it so you can see that it's actually more than a couple of pixels in his example because he was slightly higher up. You
That
can
was
see the
Rory,
number of
wasn't it?
pixels in his image that's crushed. But it's really, but so it's, yes, you can. So in other words, you can, yes, if you use a camera with high resolution, you can see there's a couple of pixels and that the left to right, across the field of view, does indeed curve. So yes, you can do it with a camera, but it's very small.
By crushed, do you mean compressed?
Compressed horizontally, yeah. Sorry.
Or do you mean or just like smushed?
Oh, please.
Sorry, Blue.
So yes, you can do it. So yes, with a high resolution camera, you can determine the couple or so. I've got a calculation somewhere, some software emulation of what the curve looks like at different heights and things, and what the curve will be, the number of pixels, in fact, you will get, and the ratio of the two. But don't forget, when you're looking along, also those 2 pixels, actually, it's half that, of course. Yes, sorry. When I said the drop, it's of course, if it was 6 miles, it's 3 miles either way. So actually, it's not going to be 2.5 kilometers. It's actually going to be half that. So in fact, it's only a pixel.
What if I want to call it the hump? Do you get mad with the word hump?
Well, no, I'm not quite so allergic as to it as some globers are, because it's a segment. If it's a chord, if you take a chord through a sphere or a circle, you take a line. So in other words, you draw a line, straight line from one point on a circle to another point on a circle. That creates what's called a segment, and it looks humpy. But the reason it's objective, we talk about humpback bridges and things. I don't know if that in the US, which has a change in elevation. So the reason is that, of course, the BEV-tards. I use the word tards. I don't tend to do that. The BEV contingent always confused, as PhD Tony was sort of emphasising, is that Tony's been teasing me apparently, is the they willfully confuse drop with a change in elevation, as Tony made the point earlier. He that is a term that they will willfully confuse. I've
Right.
Well, that's the
So
problem. That's the
hump
problem
is
with their
okay.
use. That's the problem with their use of the word "hoomp." When they say "hoomp,"
Yeah.
they're talking about an elevation change, and it is not.
Yes, they know. Yeah, exactly. So
Hump
that's why
is
we use
hump is okay,
avoid the
but
word hump, because you want to avoid the thinking when we talk about this hump, this following the curve of the Earth, which maintains the same elevation. If you call it a hump, in sort of everyday language, you're talking about a sort of humpback bridge or something, implies a change of elevation. So I can understand why globers don't want to use the word hump. I sympathise with it, but I think, as with my usual approach to these things, I think you just take it head on. You say, no, there's no change in elevation. We use the word hump only if you're talking about a segment. You're talking in comparison to a straight line. You can call it hump if you like, because it sort of looks hump-shaped. But what you must not do is think of it as a change in elevation. So you've got to hammer home that point every time. If you're going to talk about hump, say that's not a change in elevation. That's not a change in elevation, and just hammer that home.
Let me ask Blue. How about the word ramp? Ramp. I want to use. All right. So we got a boat in the left, a boat in the right, and there's a ramp in between. How about the highest point of the ramp? Well,
I don't like that ramp term either. I don't like the use of that.
No, it's worse.
Yeah.
Ramp is worse. Yeah, the hump isn't a problem. Hump as a synonym for a parabola, that's fine. The problem is drop. When you use drop, I'm going to insist on that.
You think you don't like? Sorry, you don't like drop term.
Hump
Drop
is
then.
okay. I'm not allergic to hump. But red flags go off is when they try to do the switcheroo and switch and use hump and drop, and they're always using the drop incorrectly.
Yeah, the change in elevation.
That's the bait and switch, is when they say drop it and it.
I mean, I do sometimes use this as an opportunity. If they start, someone like Bev or whatever starts saying the word drop, it gives me the opportunity to call them stupid by saying, you know full well, particularly if I've qualified it earlier by saying drop is not a change in elevation, and they talk about a drop being a change in elevation. That's actually an opportunity for you to kick them in the gonads, because you then say, I just described that as being not a change in elevation, and now you're saying it's a change in elevation. You are a stupid person by doing that.
I think it was Alan suggested, instead of calling them stupid, you hammer it home with the question. You must define drop, please.
The difference between a tangent.
Yeah, instead of
and
calling them
surface.
stupid, just show it.
Yeah, but if they're doing it willfully, I think you've got to point this out. So someone like, if you've just pointed out, if you define drop particularly, and I do try and define it when I'm using it, it is the difference between the curvature of the Earth and a horizontal at any point of observation. And if they then willfully don't take that on board, particularly if you've emphasised it, then you've got to challenge when they are doing it deliberately, willfully. I think you've got to point it out to them. You've got to say, that is what you've just done. You utter wanker. You have deliberately just done that, despite the fact that I just explained it. And if you know they've willfully done it, I think you've got to say so. I don't think you can let them get away with it. If they've misunderstood, now, hold on. If they've misunderstood, that's fine. People are allowed to be stupid. People are allowed to misunderstand things, and I don't get annoyed with them. But when you can see that they're willfully doing it, as I know Bev also does, I know he doesn't understand a lot, but there are times when I know that he's willfully misrepresenting what's being said. I think you've got to call them out as being a complete wanker.
I just gotta say, it is bulge. The word is bulge. I'm sorry about that. Blue, you were gonna say something. Let's call it bulge.
Oh, I don't know.
But that also sort of implies elevation change as much.
Yeah,
as
I do know. I do know. I don't like hump. I don't like using that. I don't know why they have such a problem. If I put a sphere here on the top of my desk and put me on top of that sphere, every part of that sphere is below me. If I put myself on the right side of it, every part of that sphere is to the left of me. If I go to the right side, every part of that sphere is to the right of me. Everything is always curving away and down from you, no matter where you are.
The trouble is, I don't think there's a really good word. If you're describing a segment, as in the geometric term of a segment, which is what you get if you just draw a line from one point on the surface of a circle to another, the edge of on the circumference of a circle to another point, you end up with this humpy shaped thing. Now,
call
you
an
either
arc.
call it a segment, which means that people won't understand, probably won't remember what that means, or you say that that's or Sagittarius. I mean, I suppose Sagittarius is probably, I suppose, the best one, because that is a sort of technical thing for what happens on the Earth, I suppose. But then they don't know what that is.
Yeah, Sagittarius got a mathematical definition.
Yeah, that's probably the best term, I suppose.
Just say it's curving away from a horizontal. I mean, when you look out on a large body of water, things don't look like they're going down at all. You just see things in the distance. The only way to know that anything's been hidden by the curve of the Earth is to know what you should be looking at, and that stuff near the surface of the Earth is missing. But it's certainly curving downward.
We shouldn't use that many words. We should just call it top of the hill, bump, hump, curve, arc, ramp.
No, it's not a hill. It's not a hump.
It's not a
It's
hill.
at
It's
the
exactly
same
what it's not.
elevation.
It's not a hill.
Top of the hill, in between those two balls, there's
Not
a
a
top
hill. Don't
of,
use
of
the
a
word
water
hill under
hill.
any
Top
circumstances.
of the
That's
water
exactly
hill.
what you don't want to do.
Show me the hill on a basketball, and I'll agree with you.
Exactly.
Show me the bulge. Show me the hump on a basketball, and I'll agree with you.
Yeah,
but that's the problem: is that they're disingenuous fucks who want to take two words and conflate them, and then add another word that they've redefined to mean something else, so they can accuse globers of doublespeak when it's actually them that's doing that. So it's not fair to call them stupid or morons, because they're being disingenuous on purpose. They're purposefully lying.
No,
so they're not dumb about it. It's not that they don't get it.
I think some of them don't get it. I really, honestly do think that's the situation.
Okay. Well,
I mean,
you may have a much higher opinion of human nature than I do, Rumpus, because I think most people are just liars on that side, not wrong.
I know. Yes, I seem to fall into the condition. But you see, the reason I don't go down that line is whether they are intelligent or understanding it and then trying to see it, is because they make such stupid arguments that if someone had a grip on what's going on, they would not make the really, really stupid arguments that they do. Like this Alice and Bob thing, for instance, a big hole in the middle. I don't think you would ever offer that as an argument if you had an understanding what the hell was going on. You would come up with a better way of trying to confuse the issue. It's so obviously stupid to anybody who's got an understanding of geometry. So I think these people genuinely don't understand. So I mean, obviously they've thrown as well misrepresentation and lying as well. But I think these fundamental concepts that they get wrong, I think 80% of them don't understand it. The others perhaps do and are misrepresenting it. But yeah, I'm just in that contingent. But yeah, you're in the blue, obviously the blue camp.
I'm in the blue camp too.
Well, PhD Tony made a good point though. If you can find some common ground literally on gravity, yeah, then you might be able to convince the difference between a hill and an arc, like you were saying, Blue.
Swell.
Just a segment of a circle, at least.
Swell.
No, swell is a change in elevation. You're using all the wrong terms.
Jose, are you just like riffing out of the thesaurus?
No, just trying to processing coming in my head.
Well, you're coming up with all these terms which imply change in elevation. You're
I'm
making
trying,
it worse.
man.
Making it worse. Sagittarius is probably the best one, I suppose, but it sounds a bit too technical for. You don't have to explain what a Sagittarius is, unfortunately.
Dragon Ball Z character to me.
So again, sorry, didn't catch that.
So it sounds like a Dragon Ball Z character to me.
Yeah, you see that. So I mean, yeah. So right. So I mean, do you I presume you know what a Sagittarius is.
I have to know what a sagittal crest is. For example, on a skull, like you see on my picture, I have a red mark. That line across there. In fact, on my skull, I have a very pronounced. In reality, I have a very pronounced sagittal crest. It's that line across. Yeah, I'm half ape.
Right.
Can I call it a spherical cap? Because what is the top of the sphere called is a spherical cap, like my hat or sombrero. But I'm gonna call it a cap.
No cap. Where's there a cap on a sphere?
Spherical cap.
There's no
The top of
spherical
a
cap.
sphere.
There's no cap on a sphere.
But there's a hat on my head. Well, how come
Well, you
there's
might
not
have
a
a hat on your head. That's
how
not
come there's not
that's
a
not
hat
a
on a
hat on a
sphere?
sphere. It's just like a ball, a basketball. That's the way to think about it. And then if you were to draw a line, if you were to poke a pin or something, or some skewer through one side to the other, you get a segment from one end, one part of it to another part. You then end up with a segment, and then the bit above the thing you've poked through is the segment, and that has a curvy bit to top to it. But that's all at the same elevation. You don't want to ever imply there's a
Haven't you heard
change
a
in
spherical
elevation.
cap? Haven't you heard a spherical cap?
Not on a sphere.
There's diagrams or globe. There's spheres. There's art. There's equations. Spherical cap is the region of a sphere which lies above or below a given plane. If the plane passes through the center of the sphere, the cap is called a hemisphere. And if the cap is cut by second plane, the spherical frustum is called a spherical segment. So spherical cap.
But that's a 3D thing. We're here talking about that is problematic, what you're talking about, because at the ends of the cap you're not getting any change at all. So we're talking about a 2D representation here, and there is not a cap here. You're talking about if you're slicing a plane through a sphere, but we're not doing a plane, we're doing a line, and so you're confusing the issue further. Yes, Peter. Yes, I thought he was referring to a spherical cap in terms of okay. I accept that it's like becomes a hemisphere, cut it in half, but that's not helpful to this. That's not helpful to what we're discussing here. John Rapp's asking what. I mean, I am prepared to use a hump or bodge, but sagittal is the correct one, and but you have to be very careful to then define that as not being a change in elevation, and then describe how it is with a circle.
Look at the image of the spherical cap that I posted on the live chat on Blue Server.
Yeah, I understand what you mean now. I thought you were confining our discussion here to a 2D one, and a spherical cap is if you slice a plane, you're correct. If you slice a plane through a sphere, then you can argue what you get is a cap on the top. Yeah, okay, so I'd agree with you there.
Yay! It's not about winning or losing. It's about at least it could be called, like, if I call it the spherical cap, you shouldn't get too aggravated.
But the point is that a discussion of what we call the hump, because we're talking about a line, a chord, whereas what you're talking about is a plane cutting a sphere, whereas I'm talking about a line cutting a circle. Because to describe start talking about caps when we're doing this, then depending on which way you're looking, it's
the same, but in the bigger scale. In the bigger scale, it's the same.
No, you confuses the issue, because you're looking along.
Scale is the only difference.
You're looking orthogonally through this, and then we're dealing with an orthogonal view, not through a 3D view. So you're going to confuse what the.
But it's just this sagittal, this little line that you call it, is just in a small section, and if you put it further away in a bigger section, then it's a spherical cap. It will go from your definition to mine.
No,
same
one's
thing.
2D, one's 3D. Okay, I'm going to have to show you a diagram. It's no good. It's going to go in diagram mode. I can't resist it anymore.
Oh, good grief.
Jose, you triggered the diagram.
Yeah, it's triggered
my God.
actually,
sorry, Blue.
Now we're screwed.
Machine. I haven't got
Jesus
my thing ready.
Christ.
Sorry, Blue. It gives me an opportunity to go on even more than usual. Actually, fortunately, you've been saved, because I had to restart my machine. And I don't have my thing loaded up, so I'm having to load it now. So I'll take some time.
Let's ask Blue. He's the man. I don't know if he's able to continue with it.
No, I feel no need at all to redefine any of our terms just to accommodate a bunch of obstinate jackwagons that are being nothing but contrarians. I don't feel the need to do that. They can put up with the way we express things and learn what the model actually is. They already know. I don't think it's going to make any damn difference what you call it.
So what do you call it, Blue? What do you call it? What do you call the hump, stroke, bulge?
We don't have a hump.
I call it an arc segment. It's
right, you call it a segment. Okay.
Yeah. It's just a segment.
Okay.
And if you connect the two ends of that arc, you've got a chord. And if you measure from the center of the chord up to the arc segment, you've got a sagitta. Now, how hard is that to figure out?
Yeah, I mean, if you understand what a segment means, I mean, that the trouble. You see, I suppose I like to be super mega explicit. I like to avoid the possibility of any confusion whatsoever. And so, if I use the word segment, I'm not sure if you describe that in terms of a circle that I am. How many people are going? I mean, I would say 50% of flat earthers will not understand what you mean by a segment. I know you're saying they should learn it. Okay, so if you describe it, in your explanation, then fine. But I think you've got to draw it, because even I think explaining something verbally, you need to draw it for them. Otherwise, they're not going to. If I describe it, I don't think that they're going to even if you do describe it verbally, I'm not sure they're going to imagine what it is.
They've seen that damn drawing 1,000. They've seen that damn drawing 1,000 times. Showing it to them another 1,000 times isn't going to make any difference.
Yeah, well, it's not. I'm good with top of the hill, Rumpus. Sorry, I'm just pushing your buttons now.
Yes, I appreciate that, Jose.
It's the great curve. So yeah, in anthropology, it's important to know the sagittal crest, because when you're looking at a skull, an old skull, the higher the sagittal crest, that means the stronger the chewing muscles are going to be. They're likely going to be herbivores, big apes chewing on like bamboo and really hard fibrous stuff like that with big molars.
And presumably things like lions that want to chomp on bone or something. So it's not just herbivores, surely. Don't things like lions or something have a crest or something put the muscles on hyenas and things?
You see the picture. I posted the link to Wikipedia in the live chat. You see that's this is Anthropus. Let's move here.
Right.
Yeah, some reptilian skulls have it too. Yeah, lots of animals have it.
So
But
you think it's just herbivores?
Yeah.
But don't things like hyenas and things need to have huge chomping muscles and things?
Yeah, the picture here is Paranthropus aethiopicus. Yeah, in fact, my pit bull did too.
Right. So it's not just restricted
to
herbivores.
Are they herbivores?
Well, probably omnivores, but I think the really strong chewing muscles is for really hard fibrous stuff.
Right.
Like meat doesn't require a lot of chewing.
But bones,
not as much as like bamboo. Yeah.
But bone needs a good chomp through, and even lions do it, and hyenas obviously do specialize in that, so they have to be able to bite. In fact, but I think hyenas have the most powerful bite of any animal, I think, don't they? Any land animal, unless it's
I've heard contradicting stories, but anyway, that's Sagittus, so it's like marked on a sphere.
Yeah, you don't really see that in a human skull, but all that is a suture line between the parietal bones.
I'm not. Yeah, and I do have one though, but I'm not 100% human.
So wait a minute. Are you implying that Mr. T's mohawk is not a haircut?
Yeah, that would account for a lot.
Would. He's a nice guy.
This is for swimming. The thing in the head, like a fin for the sharks and stuff. It's for swimming purposes.
I remember that LL Cool J song too, Jose.
Or the guy Static X. He had like a mohawk, like a meter high.
Just a fashion statement. Yeah, that's it.
Okay, Blue, I finally got there. If we want to share this.
Yeah.
Okay.
In fact, Jose, in Spain they call a mohawk cresta.
Right.
Yeah,
Puerto
Okay.
Rico, you call them what? A
Okay.
cresta.
yeah,
Right. So,
Cresta.
so this is this is part of this document I started 2 years ago about the Isle of Man and refraction, and it turned into God knows what. Part of which I explained the geometry of how you work out things like what I call the bulge.
I say thank you for me and good talks, everybody. I appreciate it. That Rumpus, that's more like 3 years since the Isle. Boom.
Might be.
Thank you,
Yeah,
everybody.
Boom.
So yes, I must actually. Yes, in this thing. So I possibly we ought to try and agree on some terminology. I mean, I say I'm calling this the bulge, but and this obviously this area here between the, if you can see this, I can zoom a bit more. This obviously, as Blue said, there's your arc. These are the 2 points you're interested in. Here's the straight line between the two, and oh well, in fact, you can see it here. So there's our horizontal where the eye is looking horizontally, and there's the drop, and there is the bulge. So in this picture shows you the bulge and the drop, and therefore they're not incompatible. So SE Montreal and QE seem to think you can't have both at the same time, and obviously it's just because it's two different lines. One is the distance between the horizontal line and the base of the object you're looking at, and the other one is obviously the maximum height of the arc above a line joining of the chord between the 2 points. So they're two completely different things. So obviously there's no problem in having the two things existing at the same time, which seems to be the line of attack that the Bevites and particularly SE Montreal and sort of QE, and he didn't quite put it in the same way. He had that strange diagram where this idea of curving away. Obviously he didn't realise. Well, I mean, I don't know what QE situation is. He is really dumb. He obviously thinks because there's a curve, there's a change in elevation. That's their basic problem. They perceive that as a change in elevation, this curve away from the horizontal. And of course, as we know, elevation. Well, although it's not when we actually use elevation, obviously we're usually referring to some datum like the mean sea level, but effectively it's the distance from the center of the Earth. And obviously the distance from the center of the Earth is not changing if you follow this curve, whereas obviously they think following this curve means there's a change in elevation. But yeah, I haven't actually put in. I avoided the term sagittar to describe that simply because I just thought that was a long. I mean, was it no name? Was it no name who said? Yeah, Luke. Did you say you did know what a sagittar was? Sorry.
Yeah, I was kidding around
You were kidding.
saying
I
it
thought you
sounded
were.
like a
Just
character
checking.
from an anime show called Dragon Ball Z.
Okay, right. I was just checking. I thought you knew. Yes, I didn't see how you could not know that. I was just checking. Okay.
Being facetious.
I thought you were, but I'm just checking, just making sure.
I still love you, Rumpus.
Oh, I love you too.
Okay.
Yeah, well, it's
So
what you're calling a bulge is the sagittar, right? All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly. I mean,
We're all straight.
Though, of course, the sagittar is very specific. It's one point, whereas the bulge, you can argue bulge looks like, well, where's the bulge? It's not quite a specific term, but obviously I'm using it as where it's at its maximum. What's the maximum height of the maximum width or something of the segment that you're cutting out? I'm calling that the bulge.
And the green line is the chord, right?
But the green line is a chord, yes. And I tried to avoid putting it. I could put in the word. I did think about putting it. Well, I call it the line from one base to the other, and I could call that a chord. But I suppose it's already taking out, as you can see, quite a bit of space on this already. I try and keep. There are already lots to look at in this diagram. Trying to keep it a bit more as minimal as possible. But yes, so that line, I could type in the word chord there and call this an arc. But I've already got quite a lot of text in it.
It looks like a bow and arrow, and in fact, speaking of anthropology, when you have that chord, is if you look at a bow and arrow, that's how the harp was invented. So that's the theory: is a bowman was shooting animals with his bow, yeah, and he plucked the right string. Maybe that's why we say a chord in music. That's the string making the noise. I bet that's the etymology.
Right. Oh, brilliant. The thing is differently, though, isn't it? It isn't this. I keep forgetting which the chord. No, no, it's just the same. Sorry, the chord is correct, isn't it? Yes, the chord
is the string, On
yes,
the
sorry,
harp.
it's the chord. Yes, sorry, it's the chord as in the length of chord is without the H. Yes, but the actual chord
and the
and
curve, the hump is the bow,
yeah,
or
an H.
the
Yes.
bow of the harp.
Okay, all right, that must have been that's a new one. Well, good one. Yes, I hadn't. I was wondering why they had that same name, but right.
Because it's
Okay.
spelled, chord is spelled the same way as in
Yes.
music, right?
Yes, it
Yeah.
is. Yes,
I,
the
I,
the
I
chord.
bet anything that's etymology.
Right.
Huh.
Yes, and so I mean I've got the word drop here. So you don't like the use of me blue, is this correct? You don't like me labelling this as drop here, is that right?
I don't have any problem with that.
But you
That is,
prefer.
I mean,
So the trouble is if you I think if you draw it with a diagram and you see this drop from here, then you probably don't start talking about. I mean, obviously, if you're doing it verbally, as George was saying, you then talk about the difference between the surface of the Earth and the horizontal at a point. But if you just do it with a diagram, this is why Bev doesn't like people giving diagrams up, and it's because it's so clear what drop means. There's no it's visually obvious. You don't have to really describe it terribly much.
In fact, I would go further and say in Spanish that when you say bow and arrow, they say arc. So in fact, the bow part is the arc of the bow and arrow.
Right. Okay, so that's the bow and arrow part rather than the musical side. Okay.
And the arrow going out is, if you're on that part, that's your zenith.
Yeah. So anyway, armed with this diagram, a diagram like this is what I was hoping to tackle SE Montreal with and say, look, there you go. That's what drop is, and that's what a chord is, and that's the where the bulge, hump, stroke, sagittar is, and there's nothing that's making this. There's no change in elevation because it's from the center of the Earth. I'm hoping this one diagram here, if I go through it slowly, a bit simpler, and then gradually bring in the new bits, I'm hoping that I will. And then we'll see. I think a child would be able to understand this diagram, what the different terms are, and how they're compatible with one another. And then if he still can't get it, then I can then say, okay, he's willfully. Then I'll have to go with Blue's analysis and say he's willfully not understanding this, and therefore he's being a deceiver. And then, okay, once they're being a deceiver, then obviously you just say, well, you can then. But I'm hoping it's so compelling that
it's not.
If you're looking at a diagram like this,
it's not. It's no more compelling than any of the other 1,000 of those pictures they've already seen. It's the same picture. You can see exactly the same thing with Walter Business. And if you go to Walter Business curve calculator, go into the Metabunk from Mick West. Same damn picture. Same labels.
Yes, the Metabunk one actually is quite good. Yeah.
Another one. Well,
but I think yes, but I think if you go with it slowly, yes, obviously they're not tutored at that point. I think what the diagram is good actually. I could, but if I've got him in my hangout and then I can lead him through right, go on is first point. So that's why I've got these emphasis on here on this down points to the center right. Okay, now this is understand what the globe model is, so he then can't claim if he understands what the globe model is, there are contradictions there. So if I can eliminate, so I don't need to get him to agree that the globe model is correct, but I could make him stop saying that the globe model has a contradiction in it, and then say, drop and thing. But yes, so I think there's a big difference, Blue, if I'm able to lead him through the diagram rather than him having come across the diagram and he just says, oh, that looks, I'm just going to dismiss it. Whereas if I force him to go through it stage by stage, I always believe if you do incremental explanation, starting off with something not really deny, even if the globe model, say this is our globe model, so he doesn't have to agree with it, but he can say this is our globe model, then take it from there. I think that's would be difficult for him to bow out. But we'll see if I can then
check this out, Rumpus. I'm gonna. Oh, sorry. Go.
I finished.
I said Blue. I saw Blue speak.
Oh, I was just gonna wish Rumpus luck with it. I think the odds of success here are roughly the square root of fuck all.
Agree.
Okay, I want to tie this all together. In fact, I've been working out my mind. In fact, this Sagittarius comes from Sagittarius. What is the symbol of Sagittarius?
Oh, it's the bow, isn't it? Yes.
Bow and arrow.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. So
Yeah,
it
that's
ties
probably it.
back to astrology and to astronomy. Think it looks exactly like a bow and arrow, and does it, and the string.
Indeed. Yes. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Well, you've got a deep interest in language, haven't you? So yeah. Okay. So that's. Yes, I hadn't even thought about that. I did wonder why it's called it. It's a bit rather odd.
I tried to break it down on, like, caveman, star far away, man with bow and arrow.
Yeah, so
grunt and hit him on the head with a club. That's how I pick up my ladies, caveman style.
I think there's a definite female contingent that like to see a gruff man. I think, and not yes. Isn't there some movement in America for women who want to be housewives? They can only be satisfied through having a proper man and being told what to do and things. And this is where they get satisfaction. This sort of movement.
I think even they object over getting hit on the back of the head with a club and then dragged to my cave. I think. I don't know. They haven't been able to object yet, what with the gags and stuff. But when they are ungagged, I'm sure they will object.
Yeah.
I don't think it
So
works.
a lot of flat earthers don't believe in astronomy, but they do play with astrology. How does that work?
It's amazing. That Geo guy on Earth Awakenings has got some sort of, not quite a degree in astrology, but some sort of education in astrology, hasn't he? And he goes on about planets being this, that, and the other.
It's like getting a degree in reading tarot cards or something.
Yeah, it's
Maybe
not
you
quite a
can
degree.
explain with his diagram how Sagittarius, refers to the arrow of the bow, and this is a great diagram.
Thank you. See, there you are. I think my diagram's quite pretty. I think it's reasonably clear, and I think if I can get a flatty in there, and at least get them to understand this is what the globe is. I think I can get through to them. But then say, well, we'll see, Blue. I'll report back to you, and see what happens. But I think it's a difference if you can lead them through gently without having someone over talking you, shouting. So I am quite diplomatic when it comes into a one-on-one. I think with a gentle. I'm not saying he'll accept the globe. That's not the challenge from George. Just that he would then understand that the globe model doesn't have a contradiction with regard to drop and bulge or sagittarius or whatever. That's what I'm trying to aim for. So I believe I can achieve that just because the diagram demonstrates this. And I think you can't deny the diagram shows these two things in existence at the same time on a circle. So I think it's going to be very difficult for a flatty to. I can't see how.
Rompus. Oh, go ahead, Blue.
I'm just. all they're going to do is shake their head, scream no, and throw their food at you. That's it.
Well, that's why he said it. If I've got him in there, he can't run away. So he can only do that for so long. And I think if I've got 30 minutes or something, well, George's challenge was 45 minutes. I think they won't be able to do that for 45 minutes.
Now, one thing that may be able to help you out is one thing I've noticed is they don't understand references. Like whenever you say drop in reference to what? They just say it as a universal drop.
As an
but
elevation
they don't
change,
understand references.
Yeah.
They see everything as a universal.
Oh, you broke up there,
and they don't realize that all measurements are relative. Well, they don't realize that all measurements are relative to something.
That's
right. That's what this diagram hopes
when
to
you
challenge.
have a measurement of.
Can you see? Yeah. Can you see my diagram where I show what drop is relative to? In this diagram, I've got this drop and this arrow relative to it, and then I've got this bulge, which also shows what it's relative to. This is why the diagram is so important, and I think effective, because you can see both the bulge and the drop in the same diagram, super big, and I think I don't see how any flatty can then say they can't see how these two things can coexist. Which, remember, that's the challenge. Can I get SE to accept you can have drop and bulge at the same time without there being a contradiction? I
But
don't see. Go ahead.
but like Blue said that they've seen this this thing many drawings very similar over and over again, and a lot of people have tried to explain it. They just don't accept it. They've
Right.
seen it, they've heard the explanations, they just choose not to accept it.
But not if I've got them in a corner. I think there's a big difference in having a fight and a debate and someone shouting over someone else and Bev's over talking. If I can get SE Montreal by himself or just one other person or whatever, and I can say, look at this diagram, you can see those two arrows are coexistent in this diagram, and that's all I need to get him to accept. That you can have this line, the purple line of drop, and the red line of bulge coexisting at the same time. They're not contradictory, and all I have to get him to accept is that those two things can coexist, which I do not think really should be a big challenge for me. And they, okay, they've seen these diagrams before, but they haven't had someone lead them through it slowly.
Yeah, they have.
Right, but John Rapp brought up a good question. How
Look,
do you,
I hope you succeed.
Thanks.
how do you deal with the flurf reset?
That's a good one. That's a very good question. Whoever it was, did you say John Rapp?
Rapp.
Oh, yeah, John Rapp.
John Rapp. Yeah.
Indeed.
Flurfnesia.
That is a good one. Good one. Good term there. Yes, that is a difficult one. That's not part of the challenge. Remember, George's challenge was not about the flat Earth reset. What did you call it? Flurfnesia, Lou.
It's contagious.
That is indeed a bigger problem, actually. That you can get them to understand what seems to be them understanding it, and then, as you say, next day they didn't like it. It contradicted their world, and if you don't like something, even if it's logical, the easiest thing. What was it? There was a comedy. Oh, right, right. So there was a. I don't know. I presume we all seen the YouTube channel guy, the guy who did those animation things about atheism, and he did the Ark, an animation about the Noah's Ark, and at one point some people come in and make a really detailed explanation as to why the animals can't fit. And he says, I accept your explanation. I understand it's terribly logical, but I'm just going to reject it because I don't like it. And indeed, so I think, yes, there is an element of that I think the brain just overnight, they say, I don't like it, even though I had to accept it. My emotional will erase the logical memory and then go back. So, yes, I agree. That actually is more of a challenge.
I think the better term is the chemo.
I think it's more,
but I mean, it isn't just chemo that does it.
It isn't just chemo, exactly. Yeah.
No, but he made it famous.
No, they've all done it. No, I think. Who is it? Is it? Oh God, I've forgotten the guy with the. Oh God, guy, the Glober. What's his bloody name? Who's interested in archaeology?
How many times was Gary Wybinga supposed to bring a diagram?
Really? Rumpus, you're in La La Land.
Chemo was doing it before it became fashionable.
Well, as I said, I can't cope with the flat Earth reset. I'll agree with that one. That is not something I'm claiming. It's just I'm dealing with George's challenge, which is over 55 minutes. Can I get SE Montreal and other flat earthers to see what's in that diagram and the fact there's no contradiction between those two terms? That's the challenge. So I'm not claiming anything about flat Earth resetness. And I don't see how I'm confident if you put a diagram where the two you're talking about are on screen simultaneously with in the context of a circle. I can't see how I should be beaten to death if I can't get through to them with that one.
You can't.
I'll do.
But what
Okay,
happens?
let's do that instead of dinner.
No, I'm going to win this, George, anyway, so I don't have to worry about what the penalty is. He said with overconfidence. I can't, for God's sake, you can see the diagram. You can see the two lines in the I can't see even a bloody illogical, irrational flat earther, you can't deny the presence of these two lines.
Well,
in this
there's
diagram.
a redundant, or I'm sorry, an oxymoron right there. A logical, reasonable flat earther. I don't think that exists. I think if you're
Okay, well,
logical and reasonable, you
yeah,
wouldn't be a
okay.
flat earther.
Let's say even someone, basically someone who can tie their shoelaces together. I don't see how and has got a fully functional vision cannot deny those two lines are existing there in the same.
Hey, Chris, this is No Name, isn't it?
Yeah, he's trying to confuse.
Okay, well, tell you what, No Name.
It's working so well with my Voyager and the fact that I keep my profile picture the same all over. And
up here and tell Rumpus he's on a fool's errand.
Rumpus, I love you to death, but you're on a fool's errand.
Thanks, No Name. Well, with
You
all this
can't
love,
reason someone out of a position that they didn't first reason themselves into.
Yeah,
You've
but
got to
but
stupid
you,
them out.
but it's
You've got to
compelling.
stupid them out.
It's
You've got to make you've got to make a video by looking off into the distance with emotional mood music playing and him just incredulously asking questions.
He
right?
can't get
And
away
that's
from
how
me.
you
If I've got him in my bloody thing and he doesn't run away, and I've shown this got functional vision, and you can see the two lines, I can't see if anybody's got basic, very basic logical functionality, how you can deny what's going on there with these two lines
Here, I'll help
coexisting.
you out.
I'll help you out a powerful force.
I'll help you out a little bit, Rumpus. You be Rumpus, of course, and I'll be Montreal.
Okay.
This bulge here. Where's the hump?
Right. So you're playing a role here. Okay. So George,
Where's the
can
hump?
you? There it
I
is.
see
This
a hump.
I've called it bulge. I've called it bulge. Can you see this thing called bulge here?
Yes, but
Right.
isn't that the hump?
That's right. That's the hump. And can you see that it's showing?
Oh, well, how can you have a drop when there's a hump?
Now you're gonna have to see.
Well, that's your problem, Rumpus.
Oh well, the corner. You see, I will have them in my hangout, so I will have control over the. Although I won't. I really have trying to avoid when I'm hosting. I don't try and bully, censor, mute people. I've never muted anybody. So I think if I can, I will have the opportunity. I think by force of character to say, now hold on, you haven't let me finish the point there. I've got this line here. You need to accept this line here exists and this line here exists, and you can see they're existing in the same diagram. And I have a circle for there's no contradiction.
All you've got is
That's
cartoons, bro.
How
You
can
live
you
in
have a
La
hump
La
and a
Land.
drop
That's
at the same
scientific
time?
don't speak.
Yeah, how can you have a drop and a hump at the same time?
Because this
No, that's
diagram
Cartoons are
that's not
pseudoscience.
common sense.
this diagram, you can see they're happening at the same time, coexisting in this diagram
It's
of a
not
circle.
sense.
You can see it for yourself there in the
That's
diagram.
ridiculous.
They're
That's not.
coexisting.
That's apparent.
Denying your vision. Didn't you be on screen?
Oh, you're good at this, George.
Hey, I
like we've been
many times over the past few years.
Yeah, I think it's one of the easier challenges. I think. So anyway, I'm not completely confident, but I think I'm reasonably confident that I can at least get them to accept the existence of both things. Now they might
Now,
agree.
Rufus,
Obviously, I'm
one
using a
thing I
circle.
can-
Go ahead.
One thing I can, I have talked 5 flat earthers out of it to no longer be flat earthers.
There you go.
But it's each has taken months. It's a slow process. You have to get them away from all the rest of the stuff you're never going to do in a Discord forum or anything like that. You have to get them away from all of that.
Well, that's
and the biggest thing besides getting them away is to pick the right one. There are just some that you're just not going to get through to.
Yeah. Well, remember,
it take
I'm
a
not
while.
trying. Sorry, go ahead. I'm not trying to turn this guy into a glober. I'm just trying to get him to accept that he's a contradiction in having both drop and a hump on the globe is not a problem. And obviously, I've got a circle here I'm demonstrating with, but I will probably come up with a 3D version of this as well. So that's and my challenge is not my challenge was not
in La La Land.
my challenge. Remember, the challenge that George has given to me, and the one I said I was going to do, and that George challenged me, has accepted that's what my target is. Just to get him to accept the existence of drop and hump in the same geometry is quite possible. That's the only challenge. I'm not trying to turn him into a glober. All I'm trying to get, or the only challenge is, I've given myself quite a, it's a low bar, I think, or reasonably low for a normal human being, just to accept the coexistence of those two.
And then,
But
You
let
don't
me
live on a diagram, bro. You live in La La Land. Can you
Well, that's it.
demonstrate this in the
Well,
real
that's it.
world?
It is a geometrical argument. That's all we're talking about. So it is
We
a.
don't
It is
live on geometry, bro. We live on a realm. What are you? We're not flat earthers. We're realm earthers.
Yeah, I think I might be able to tackle
Realist.
that. But if he's moved to that
We
argument,
live in reality, not diagram, Rumpus.
Wait,
Well-
I think IB Hunter had a comment.
Yeah, one of the things is, what I was going to continue with was I've been able to talk some of the flat earthers out, but I've had a discussion with one where we went round and round for 2 weeks because they insisted that binoculars could not focus at anything past 12 miles. But then I would ask them how far is the moon, and they said miles over their head. And I said, can your binoculars focus on the moon? And they can. So I said, well, so then your binoculars can focus 12 miles. And they said, no, they can only focus to 12 miles. We went round and round for 2 weeks on that.
Bloody hell.
I can't believe they didn't bring up magnification effect.
No,
But yes,
it
the
was-
binoculars can't, but the dome magnifies.
That is
Yeah.
quite dispiriting because that is a bit compelling, isn't it? If they accept this thing that looking at is more than 12 miles away and you can focus on it by simple logic, therefore you can focus on something more than 12 miles. That's a sort of PQ. If you can
And
focus on
it
something more than
took
12
2
miles,
weeks.
therefore you are able to focus on it. The fact that took
Assuming
two
the
weeks,
ether
that is a
doesn't
bit
give
depressing.
the dome magnification power, Rumpus, you're completely
Mm.
leaving out domification.
Well, I thought isn't the moon supposed to be inside the dome?
It's a projection. We think that the moon is inside the dome. It's a projection from outside the dome.
Right, but that means the thing's inside the dome nonetheless. So
It's a
therefore there's no
luminary.
dome. So the
It's a
dome is
luminary.
therefore not. It's still that distance away.
Look, Rumpus, you can't look at the sky to see the shape of the ground, okay? It's
Yeah,
just the fact.
Yeah, let's explain that to them, Mr. Miss. I think that was who was saying that the other day. I can't remember now who it was. It was
Any
yes,
slurp
that
ever.
yeah, they are very reluctant. In fact, yes, actually, Bev is one of those. He says yes, you can't tell anything about the surface of the Earth from looking at stars. Yes,
Well,
that
that
is in
means he
fact one of his
doesn't believe
favourite
in
lines.
sextants.
Yeah, he doesn't. He doesn't believe that. It's amazing. He was lecturing, I think, Chris Berry, saying that you can't use a sextant, and he said that no one's ever explained how you can use a sextant to actually, after you've made the measurement, what you can do with it, despite the fact that we've got hundreds of years of people finding their way around the world using them. He denies they work at all.
Oh, it's
I mean, it's an extraordinary position.
Conspiracy, Rumpus. Magellan really went around the Earth not with a sextant. No, he used an auto level. He used a water level.
Right. Yes, I must admit that is amazing. I must admit that's so. I just had to think about that several times, and he really believes that. Bev really believes that sextants don't work, or the way that this being explained as working doesn't work. He says you can't explain it, which means he must believe they cannot work, which is an extraordinary. I mean, I suppose being flatty is being extraordinary as well. Well, he claims not, of course, but that is quite something to claim that all these sextants and that obviously people have used. He's in denial that they actually ever did anything useful. Is quite something. These people are just not. I know they're not functional, but I think that diagram is still going to work. But yes, it is a bit depressing that thing that IB was just describing, where it's the simple logic there is if you can see something more than 12 miles in focus, therefore you can see something more than 12 miles away in focus. That's a really rather compelling argument.
What else has been going on in the world of flat Earth? Anything of interest?
Well, I think one day we'll have to do something about curves and lines intersecting at angles and how we work that out.
Well, it
Go
would
into
be
details of that.
kind of fun to go over a few basic geometric principles that seem to escape that crowd. Crazy ideas like you can't have an angle to a curve.
Yes, we should
He's
do
going around telling everybody that he solved MC Toon's sextant challenge.
Who?
So he's created a brand new way for light to refract.
What is
Oh, you're talking about
Brian?
Brian's or Leakey?
Brian
Yeah.
Leakey, yeah.
Huh?
Right. Yes, he did. It turned out he'd been using Google Earth, for goodness sake. Oh God. That's a globe. Though I must admit, the fact that QE thinks that the Google Earth is a flat Earth model, I mean, and they see that elevation profile and they go, oh, therefore something like this point. Yes, of course you've done this, Blue, haven't you? You did you've specialized. You've given some good with the clamping and unclamping business, showing that the Google Earth shows you what the elevation. You get an elevation change of the an unclamped thing. And he still thinks that two bridges, the beach the beach in the UK and the beach in America, Google Earth says, look, you look at the elevation profile, they're not changed, therefore the Earth is flat. That does require just an amazing amount of idiocy. I mean, so Blue, here's an example. Do you think that QE understands that on the globe Earth model, those two things at the same elevation and the elevation profile in Google Earth is an elevation profile with respect to the centre of the Earth, or do you think he doesn't understand that, or he does understand it and lies about it?
I believe every one of them understand it. They just lie about it.
Okay.
No, there are a few dumbasses out there that you could say, he probably doesn't understand. SC may be one of them, but the ones like Oakley and QE and Bev, and they're just lying bastards. That's all. They get it. They understand it.
They do that. They are lying bastards as well. But I genuinely think that no one who's got a brain would claim that Google Earth is a flat Earth model. If you had a brain, you understood the issues, you wouldn't make that argument, I don't think.
Well, he understands how stupid the people are that he is talking to. They understand very well what a bunch of total dumbasses they cater to. And those guys would eat pig shit if QE said it tasted good.
Yes, I must admit that is a line of attack against me, that these messing around with their own followers who are so stupid and they think they can get away with anything.
Well, just think about the simplicity of the argument. Look at this. The sea is always at the same elevation. It must be flat. That's the total argument. That's the entire argument that they made. And those idiots lapped it up like crazy.
It's this height relative to this height. Relative measurements.
And now you get Bev. I do something simple on Google Earth, like, well, letting it draw a nice straight line at an absolute altitude, and all you hear out of those clowns is unclamped. Blue unclumped the line. Yeah, well, big fucking deal. Yes, Blue didn't do it. Google Earth did it. Clamped was not my term.
Well, look at traditionally, even a year ago, how Quantum Eraser totally buggered up elevations and curves. I mean, there's a whole litany, a long line of these idiots that just purposely or not are not acknowledging the difference between curve and elevation.
Yes, I mean, Bev doesn't understand that. Because it's the same thing, it's a horizontal level business. I mean, that's his basic thing. So I'm wondering if I try to get Bev in a corner and explain this horizontal level business to him.
That's worth 2 dinners.
I must admit, I think because he's prepared to lie and deceive, and he's obviously is a deceiver, he deliberately misrepresents people, so we know that he is an inclined to be basically a liar and a deceiver. So we know he does that. So then the question is that also what he's doing with regard to his supposed understanding of what's going on with his? But just the way these people shoot out with, oh my god, this shock with the sliced Barcane video, and when they're going over my video as well. This, oh look, all these verticals are not parallel. I really don't think someone who was trying to lie and understood what was going on would say such things, because it's. And okay, but Blue is saying that, well, they just can get away with it because their followers are so stupid. But I don't think they'd risk it if they knew that there was a danger they'd be exposed. I think they'd stick to other arguments. But
how many times have we exposed those guys?
Yeah, but they're all. It's a combat situation, and therefore they're not. I mean, Bev will overtalk you. You know what Bev's like. I've been in. You can't get your message through because they're being overtalked or interrupted or sabotaged or not being able to share a diagram or whatever. And and they've got multiple people coming in on you. You know what that situation's like, and so I don't think you get the opportunity to make a clear explanation. And they will. And if they don't want to understand something, if they willfully do not want to say, then and you're struggling to get through to them. But I think if you did get in a situation where they can't obfuscate, but they that situation very often because they're always in their bunkers. Bev rarely comes out of his bunker. Oakley never comes out of his. Huey never comes out of his. I think. Well, you could argue that's indicative that they know they're going to be exposed.
Well, the reason Bev rarely comes out of his. The reason Bev rarely comes out of his bunker is because he's been banned everywhere. There's few places he can go.
You could argue that for your position because these people don't come out of their bunkers, and that's because they know they're going to be exposed, and therefore they know they're talking bollocks. Whereas you would have thought if they were advocates, messianically would be trying to spread the word around the place if they genuinely believe what they're saying. So that would sort of support your position. Unless they've been hurt so much. But don't forget, Oakley did come out of his bunker on one occasion with me and Geostreber on Steve McRae's channel, and he got utterly destroyed by me and Geostreber, and possibly that experience hurt him. So even if he, though I think Nathan Oakley is one of the ones who have a candidate for possibly just being a complete and utter fibber about everything and not actually believing what he's saying. But again, he says this idea that he thinks you can't have an angle, a sextant doesn't work on a curved surface as though it doesn't work on a hill. I think if you wouldn't make such arguments if you knew they were bollocks. It's so stupid. But as you say, all these followers seem to have taken it on board. So perhaps if you've got a willing flock that are prepared to take on anything, perhaps you can get away with just talking utter crap that's so obviously wrong.
Yes, I can.
It's difficult to know. I still think that most of them are stupid, and they just want to believe something and too stupid to understand the proper explanation. And they would understand it, I think, if you could pin them down in a corner and then explain it to them slowly. But you're never in that environment, and therefore they allow their own wishful thinking to dominate over any logical process that they might undergo. I think that's the way it works. And of course, if they're religiously inclined, then you're stuffed.
Now, I have another story of one of them I actually dealt with that might give you a little insight. This guy actually, I'm confident he's no longer a flat earther, but he was making videos on his channel, mainly about ISS, and about the moon. And he had a telescope, a nice 8-inch SCT, very similar to the telescope I use. But he only photographed the moon, never.
You're cutting out. Well, you've cut out completely. IB. Oh, you've muted. Oh, okay. Oh, he's gone. You're muted, IB. I don't know if you know that. Am I?
I don't know what's going on. Everybody went on mute. Wasn't me. I didn't do it.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh,
No,
wow.
no.
Everything seems okay.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I had a phone call.
All right.
Now, what I was saying is he had a telescope very similar to mine, but he never looked at anything other than the moon because being in that community, they convinced him that every photo of stuff in space was a NASA CGI, and it was not worth him to look anywhere else. It took me 2 months between comments and actually going back and forth in email. It took me 2 months to finally have him take a picture of the Orion Nebula, and
Really?
even that took about. I had to go into great detail of how to do it and how to take the photo without shaking the telescope and everything. And finally, after taking that photo and seeing it for himself, that's what convinced him that, oh well, shoot, all these people were lying to me.
Bloody hell. So he couldn't cope with just turning the telescope a little bit and thinking.
No, he. In fact, I tried to convince him to do it, and that's what actually brought him to my channel. Was he was asking? He actually sought me out for actually. Saw me in comments and stuff like that, and I don't do the argument. I just state facts and stuff like that. And so my channel saw some of the stuff and started asking questions. How much do I edit the photos? And can you do this? So we started talking, and I tried to convince him to take the photos, and why he wouldn't take the photos. Well, there's no use. It's all CGI. I said, no, it's not CGI. You can see it for yourself. But
There are
it still took months.
Go ahead.
It took months.
There are
And he's
some
a real
people
nice
who
guy.
believe. Sorry.
Oh, I'm
Oh, there
sorry.
are some people. Sorry, there's a lag
Go.
here. There's some people who believe. Sorry, there's some people who believe that the images in the telescopes are actually manufactured by the telescope, and they've all been this worldwide conspiracy. The telescopes are actually generating the images inside them.
Yes,
Which
I
is
spoke with some like that too. Yes.
God, I mean, that's just amazing. Did you say this guy had an 8-inch telescope?
He had an 8-inch SET, Smith Cassegrain, and he would take
Bloody, an 8-inch
beautiful photos.
Cassegrain.
Yeah,
Jesus Christ.
right. He would take beautiful pictures of the moon, but he never would take it off of the moon. He only photographed the moon. And I said, look, this is some photographs you could take of Jupiter, Saturn, Venus, the Orion Nebula, different galaxies. You could do all of this with the telescope you have.
What was the focal length on that?
It's 2030, if I remember right. A little over
Right.
2,000 millimeters.
Just over 2 meters, right? Yes. Bloody
Yeah.
hell. Yeah, that's more stonking, yes.
Yeah, and depending on which camera you hook to it, it's going to be more than that. The equivalent focal length is going to be more than that.
Right. Jesus Christ. What's the point of having an 8-inch telescope with that 2-meter focal length and just looking at the moon? Bloody hell. In fact, with a 2-meter length like that, I don't think you can get all the moon in the viewfinder in one go.
Depends on the camera. You could barely fit it in there.
Yeah. Yeah. Jesus Christ.
Yes, and it took
Amazing.
2 months of going back and forth to get him. And finally, the thing that convinced him to do it, he actually made a photo, and it didn't come out right because all he did was push the button on his camera while it was connected to the telescope. And it was like, no, you got to use the timer so it doesn't vibrate when you push the button.
Oh, God.
And he got a smudge, but it wasn't quite right. So I was actually in Houston at the time, which is probably the worst place to take a photo of the Orion Nebula. But I went on top of the parking garage, and I didn't have my telescope. I just had my camera with a 400 millimeter lens,
Right.
and I videoed me taking a photo with my camera, no tracking tripod, just a standard tripod, and took a photo, and then zoomed in on the photo on the back of the screen to show that it wasn't a great photo, but it showed that it color for the nebula and all. And shortly after that, he took one that particular night, and the next day he showed me the photo, and then he kind of stopped doing his videos and kind of disappeared off of the flat Earth scene.
Have you got a, is that, I can't remember if that telescope, has that got a mount then that can rotate and then compensate for the Earth's rotation? Because it's not an equatorial mount, is that? That's an azimuthal thing.
That one, I don't remember if, I think his was an equatorial mount.
Oh, right, okay. So you could get
It may have been an alt as that telescope comes with two different types of mounting systems.
Right.
I don't remember which one he had, but either way, even if it was an alt as, it was plenty enough. If you did a 30-second exposure at the minimal focal length, been able to get something good. And I was only having them do like a 10-second exposure, which would have been enough to get the Orion Nebula.
I must admit that is, you seem to have met the real hardcore people that, yes, that would be a struggle. I mean, I'm hoping my diagram, because it's just a diagram showing this too, but you are really struggling with some real low lives there. Well, low life, the real low IQ types. Yes, God.
Yeah, well, these guys were actually interested in finding out, and that's after sorting through hundreds of them in comments to find those few that actually were somewhat interested in the answer. Most of them don't even pay attention to the answer. Whenever they'll ask a question, and when you answer it, they're not listening to the answer. They're coming up with a new question or rebuttal without ever paying attention to your answer.
Yeah, so the people you're talking about, they might be stupid, but they are at least explorers of the truth. They're actually interested in finding, whereas someone like the Bevs of this world are actually resisting finding the truth. Yeah.
Exactly. And it takes a long time to find those. And when I find somebody new, it takes at least 20 back and forths in the comments, at least 20, before you could kind of find out if it's somebody you could actually get through to or actually even have a decent conversation with.
Oh, well, I'm hoping my diagram is saying that I think, because I've got it all in one diagram there, and can say, there's the bulge, there's the drop. That's a visual thing. I'm not even having to ask them to do the sorts of thinking that you're talking about, the 12 miles, is it in focus or not? That requires, that's a logical argument, whereas mine's purely visual, so hopefully I think I've got a fighting chance.
Well, good luck. I hope it works.
Oh, thank you. But yeah, I must admit, you seem to have really met some real dimwits.
Oh, I've definitely met my share of them, yeah. And some of them are actually very nice people.
Got somebody else that's just joined the chat, and I don't know who that is. So what, Pussy Gusset? Who are you? Can you talk to us?
The name like Pussy Gusset.
Mm-hmm.
And Rodman's asking me, will my argument work? I'm not quite sure which argument. I've done, just caught up with the chat. Rumpushaw dealing with the instigators. Yeah, I mean, I appreciate that. But I think with a diagram where you can point to two things on screen, I think even an instigator and someone who willfully, absolutely doesn't want to take on board what you're saying, I think that even such a person that's going to have problems looking at that diagram and saying, look, there are those two lines. They're there. You can see them there on screen. They're together. They're not contradicting one another. I think even an instigator, as you put it, and someone who's willfully not wishing to understand is going to have a problem. Yeah, but you can't look at the diagram, Andrew. I think if you diagrams, the line doesn't come into it. If you can see on screen the two lines that people like SC claim are not compatible with one another on a globe model, on a circle, you can't have both of them. Whether they think we've been lying or not, I think
unless
that's just cartoons, that's not real life. You're just showing me cartoons.
Yeah, but it's a principle. Yeah, the point is that they're claiming there's a principle. They're claiming there's a geometric principle. SC Montreal and others have claimed there's a geometric contradiction, and I think I can say no, there's not a geometric contradiction.
Yeah, he can't deny it unless he's what did you call it? I was going to say provocateur.
Instigator was the chat.
Yeah, I go straight to the French.
Right,
And Brian Peck, what's going on, man?
Oh, Brian.
Much. Was just walking by and saw Rumpus was streaming something and had to figure out what was going on.
Brian, how are you? Are you still threatening to come over to the UK? And I'm probably going to try and do my. Do you know that George is threatening to come over my Rect thing, and you were threatening to come over at some stage. But we might be doing it in sort of more Juney.
I'm not gonna make it this time around. Wish I could.
Never mind. Okay, you've been fun, but never mind. Okay, good. Yeah, you just have to watch it online. George, and hopefully be able to see him. Yeah, I'm trying to convince them, Brian, that I don't know if you're familiar with SE Montreal and a Mobius or something from the Bev thing. I'm claiming that I can convince them you can have drop and bulge at the same time, and convince these people who claim you can't. There's contradictory concepts. And I've been challenged by George. He said if I've got 45 minutes to convince SE Montreal, I'm going to get him to a hangout of mine and then try and get him to look at this diagram I've got on screen, and then say, look.
You can't convince SC Montreal of anything. He thinks if you walk 5 miles one direction, you've dropped an X amount, and then if you turn around, walk back, and walk it back, you've dropped an extra however much in that 5 miles.
Well, I'm hoping my diagram here will be compellingly refuting that. That's my.
He's literally incapable of learning.
Okay, so there's someone else who's a bit skeptical, right? Okay.
I should
in your bingo card.
I should point out, Rumpus, that you've just spent an hour and a half trying to convince us of it. You ain't got anywhere.
Well, I'm trying to convince you that I can convince them. It's slightly different.
I know.
I think, again, it's the diagram. It's on screen. It's just 2 lines on screen. I think that's really difficult to argue against. That's why I've got this confidence. If it was about a logical argument, I'd be less confident. But we've got a picture on screen with 2 lines on it. For goodness sake, that's very difficult to argue against.
What are you talking about? SC goes to Logic Night every week on Bevs and hasn't learned a damn thing. And you expect him to learn something from anybody else?
Yeah, but I haven't actually had anybody on there proposing logic without being interrupted or interfered with. Whereas here, I'm going to get him into a hangout on on a hangout of mine on Discord or something, and then I'm going to lead him through this, and then just basically point at these 2 lines and say, "Look, we've got these 2 lines that work with a circle. They're compatible with one another. His claim that they contradict one another cannot be correct. I think."
Rumpus, in 25 minutes, you're going to get pissed off at him and throw him off of your panel.
No, and I've never done that. Even with people who've annoyed me a lot, I'm quite good when I'm in a position of control. I'm actually much nicer to people when I'm in a position of control than I am when I'm not in control. I don't think so. Well, who knows? I'm going to try anyway. I've said I'm going to. Yeah, well, we'll see how it goes.
It'll be pretty simple. He'll just deny gravity.
This has got nothing to do with gravity. This has got nothing to do with gravity. It's just I say. It's quite focused. It's can you see those 2 lines are on that diagram, and their drop and bulge are together in that diagram. They're not contradicting one another. That's the only goal I've got. So it's quite a low bar here.
Cool story, bro. Cool story, bro. This is a diagram. We don't live on a diagram.
It's generally the geometric principle.
I have another one that I've heard recently was that how do you know that's a straight line with all of this curved space time? You don't even know that that's a straight line.
Yeah, that's another straight line business. Oh, that's mean, Blue. I think yes, he's Blue's provocative poll from Blue. Oh, bugger.
We should see how this works out.
I voted yes, and I'm still 0%. How's that work? I don't understand that.
Because you're biased.
Yeah, no, but it was at 100% no, which I didn't say was possible with me having voted yes. But it's gone up to 14% now.
I'm sorry, Blue. I meant to dismiss the poll. I accidentally closed it.
Whoops.
You might be able to bring it back up again. Oh, yeah, if you dismissed it. Okay. Yeah, well, like I say, this is why I'm going for a very specific thing. I'm not trying to turn this guy into a global like IB struggled with over months. It's just, can you see these 2 lines? Do agree. They're compatible with one another. That's all I'm trying to achieve here.
Are you
Because these
are you going to include the phrase "Do you concede"?
Probably not. I don't tend to. Although I try and beat them to death, I don't demand that they. I would say something like, "Do you accept that these two things?" I might say something like, "Do you accept that these two things can exist in this geometry?" That's probably as far as I'll go. And if he says, I'll see if I can get a yeah. Yeah, so that could be the final test, couldn't it? The challenge that George would make. Can I get him to say yes to that question? That would be a win, I think. But yeah, that's asking quite a lot. He might, even if he does understand it, he might not actually want to admit to that to me personally.
Well, in fact, somebody asked Bev. Remember, so at least Bev, is this? Do you agree that this is what I believe?
I
At
did
least
that.
you believe this is my model, and he refused to be pinned down on a yes or no.
Yes, I did that. I asked him 30 times. I asked 30 times. I counted them. I asked him, did he understand that on the globe model that we believe, not him, we believe that down is towards the center of our globe model. And he
Well,
said, "Oh, well, I don't accept that.
belief
That's what
has
down."
the word lie in the middle.
So, and again, he obfuscated, he deflected 30 times. I did start to shout at him for that quite a lot. And he would not even accept that that's what we believed. And then he then said, "Are you speaking? How come you're speaking for all Globers?" And so he tried to deflect my point until I was speaking for everybody. And I said, "All Globers believe this." And then he said, "How do you know that?" So he did try, but I went back to it 30 times. So I kept on coming back and back. And then he 2 days later did actually accept that that's what we believe. So it's a bit weird. This is where it comes down to his memory. I think is a bit weird, or he's a compulsive deceiver. So yes, I agree with you. I've had that very experience you've just described, where they even accept that that's what you believe. So,
I have a feeling. I have a feeling it's going to go the way this. Rumpus, look, I know you believe that, and I accept that. However, you will not find anyone who can tell me anything else. What you're saying, it makes sense, but it's not what Bev tells me, and
yeah,
that's
but
going to
it's
be the
two
end of it.
lines on a diagram. It's 2 lines on a diagram. I've just got to say, look, those 2 lines, they exist, they coexist. That's all I've got to. That's all I got to get him to accept. Those 2 lines on the diagram coexist with that geometry.
It's not the type of drop I mean, Rumpus.
Yeah, but it's the type of drop I mean. It's what we mean by drop. I know this is the point that Blues has a thing.
The problem, Rump, is that you accept part of an argument, but then when you say, okay, so the conclusion is, that's the part where they'll object, and that's where all the arguments go flying out the window, because they've concluded that the earth is flat. Therefore, any evidence to the contrary must be rejected. It must be fake, it must be manufactured, and it must all be in your head.
You're absolutely right. That is the way it works. You can
That's
lead them through
cognitive
these
dissonance.
that little steps that they all agree with. You can get them to agree to one little step, then the next little step, and the next little step, and the next little step, and that final one that, as you say, therefore you concluded. You're absolutely right. Then, when when you offer that up, then say no, 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 and then they start backtracking on their acceptance of all the points you've made previously. But the point is, this is just one go. That there's no conclusion here. With my diagram, as I say, it's a visual thing. Those 2 lines are on screen at the same time, so there's no stepping. It's either you can see those 2 lines on screen or you can't. So that's why I believe there's more of a chance with what I'm doing here than with a logical argument with a conclusion, because it's just a yes, no, can you see those 2 lines on screen? So that's why I'm a bit more confident than I am about other things.
So many times when we've tried to show Gary things like that, and we're like, "Can you see it? Can you just look at it?" "Oh no, I can't see it right now. I'm not on my screen."
Yeah, Gary's a bad case. Yeah, I think Gary is a really bad case.
You can be willfully ignorant.
They love using that "I'm on my phone" excuse.
Yeah, I mean that's
Okay.
Gary seems to be particular. No, Blue, don't announce the results.
We have 27 votes in. Okay. 27. Yeah, I think we'll end it. And the survey says 92% no, Rumpus.
How many votes got? How many yeses were there? Come on. How many is that? Was it?
Well,
so yes, it must be more than me.
Yeah, it's you and somebody that clicked the wrong button.
Or it's one of Rumpus's sock accounts. The jury's still on that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I didn't tell you that, did I? Oh, God. Yes, I suppose you've got to allow. No, that person didn't click incorrectly. That's no.
You'll have that.
Okay, well, I will
Yeah.
organise that within the next week.
Well, at 3 hours and 36 minutes into this, anybody want to talk some more, or shall we call it an evening for the YouTubers out there?
Yeah, I'll call it. Yeah, I've worn everybody out.
I'm fixing supper, so I'm gonna go. But thanks for having me, Blue. It was always fun.
Oh yeah, glad you were able to get in here. No, man. Roll Tide.
Roll Tide.
Well, thanks everybody. I appreciate it. Thanks for showing up. We might do this again tomorrow night. We'll see. I'll try to put a notice up ahead of time tomorrow. Just didn't get around to it today. But and you guys are certainly welcome to hang in the Discord if you want to. And I'll stick the link out there in the chat one more time. If anybody wants to join the Discord.
Yeah, it does work. Just 2 people.
Yeah, go right ahead.
Yeah, the percentage does work out for 2 people. It's 2%. It is 2% with just 7% with just 2 of us on the yes. So yeah, it only required 1 misclick.
Okay, well, any of you guys got anything else to say before we shut down YouTube? I'll take that as a no. Well, all right, everybody. We'll see you on the next one. Have a good evening.